And every moment counts, baby, I don't wanna miss a thing. We can sleep under the stars, we can sleep under the stars, or hang out in hotel bars, driving somewhere in your car. We can sleep under the stars, we can sleep under the stars, under the stars. Make the most of this night. Come on, baby, take my hand. And we don't need to do the things we don't wanna do.
Welcome to the SMITE Global Series. Finch and Taco here with you to bring you the action today. And we're in LATAM North. These are the finals. This is the team fighting to make it to that Masters tournament here, Taco.
Dragones, you see, and Waiso Serial have both looked excellent up until this moment where we finally get a chance to see these two teams battle it out to see who comes out victorious.
And I imagine we are going to be seeing some very strong competition between these two teams. We've gotten to check in with Dragones, of course, before now since we've been going through the finals each week. This is a roster full of names that we know pretty well, that we've seen around, and certainly are capable of putting on a good show here.
And of course, you can kind of expect some of those adaptations that we've been seeing throughout the SMITE Global Series from that North American and EU SPL gameplay. And of course, when it comes to the Latin North NA, they tend to have a little bit more influence, I would say, from the NA side of things. Yeah. I can always appreciate the levels of aggression that these guys tend to bring out.
Oh, yeah. These teams always seem to be willing to fight, so I would be very surprised if we see what we've seen sort of in the SPL, where sometimes, it's slower matches, where, we don't get that many kills in it. These teams here, they love to duke it out. They all know that they're so even in skill level, and they want to see who's the best.
There's no such thing as hesitation most of the time, especially when it comes towards objective play. I think that a lot of these teams tend to look for the picks and the bait outs on the objectives as opposed to just directly forwarding off the sieges. But you can always appreciate, again, those levels of just battling it out nonstop.
Yeah, and I'm looking specifically towards Latera and the jungle to see. The jungle's been so important here this season, and I know that he in particular likes to play some of these high-pressure junglers, so that's what I'm looking forward to seeing between these two teams. The Donji, the Surket, the Camazot, these Robin. These picks like that in the jungle have been so highly prioritized. How are they going to work with those two here?
Again, a lot of this I think is also going to be banking off of how the junglers are able to play from their mid laners as well, considering that there's been so much control focused primarily around that jungle mid aspect. You always have to carry it in the back of your mind in those team fights what kind of control you're really looking for, whether it's a single target pick selection or if it's a little bit more AoE and crowd control oriented.
Yeah, and you want to make sure that you're managing your power spikes together well. If you're going for a bit of a slower start, then your jungler maybe doesn't always need to try and set up those fights to happen right with you at that moment. Or if you are trying to go for a quicker start, make sure that you're coming over that mid lane, getting everything started up, and trying to get you ahead.
I also want to keep eyes out for Shinto over there in the soul lane. I think that every now and then you can see a bit of aggressive play at those kind of picks where you're relying more on like the Bolono, Cyrus's, Cerberus have been really popular gods throughout Season 5, and I think we can expect to see some more of that here today.
Oh, you're right. Those solo laners right now, they feel like they're so strong. We've even seen Terras over there in the solo lane, and maybe those aren't the high-pressure picks, the ones that are running it from the solo lane, but it shows how much variety there is in the picks right now. You can pick it, sort of let that Terra almost certainly lose lane, but we know that what we really need from her is the ultimate. We need that control later on.
Well, granted, between these two teams, we've all been really looking forward to these finals matchup as we head into picks and bans for game number 1.
That's right. We're ready to see exactly which one of these picks that you and I have been, happily talking about here are going to be prioritized by these two teams. Right off the bat, though, Unbox has been banned away. That Fear No Evil ultimate has been so strong so far, so maybe they just don't want to have to worry about it.
We've been seeing a lot of the Humvaz lately out of Waiso Serial as well. The jungler tends to lean a little bit more towards that. I think that the team as a whole just appreciates having the Fear No Evil for a lot of control and just causing chaos really in the midst of a team fight. Anytime you're forcing an enemy team to disperse entirely, it's usually going to work out in your favor.
Yeah, and that keeps your supports from trying to keep the carries alive. That's exactly what you need when you're trying to isolate players and make sure you can get those picks off. So take that Fear No Evil away. That does set up Waiso Serial to make that first pick Kakulin selection, which we've seen run the solo lane.
And again, when looking at the rest of the bans, there is also the possibility of the support Kakulin. Yeah, I agree. But I think that both of these teams are focusing more so on picks that they know their opposition favors as opposed to what they think could be the strongest possible gods in the current meta. Agni, Nemesis, Athena, again, all gods that are excellent for controlling a lot of those areas in the jungle and just focusing mostly on that team fighting aspect.
Geb and Cerberus going to be the picks that are selected. They want to make sure they go ahead and get their Guardians in there, their frontliners. Cerberus, we've seen be strong in the solo lane. I imagine that's where it'll be since they've already selected the Geb to go along with it, so likely we've got those two sorted out. Then over for Waiso Serial, going to be the Susano and Hou Yi.
A very strong frontline already, though, for Dragones with Geb and Cerberus. Not going to really have to worry too much about those carries feeling pretty protected, although Geb is a little bit of a risk here just because of the fact that Waiso Serial does have a fairly aggressive aggressive starting draft from between the Hui, Susano, and Kakolan, that is a ton of burst possibility.
Yeah, and it makes sense to me, too, that they want to try and get this big burst. We talked about it already, how these teams over here in LATAM feels like they just are ready to brawl, and that feels like a brawl composition to me. It's so hard to lock that Susano down, and Hui is so good at boxing in lane. Gonna have his work cut out for him, though, if it is gonna be Uller that goes over to duo. We've seen some Uller mid, but that Hui-Uller matchup could be tough.
I would probably have to expect that on Forza as well, just because Uller in the hands of a ADC is always gonna be able to provide a lot of pressure, and it's gonna be great to help complement the Geb's lack of clear in the early game.
I like this, though. Can you imagine getting to the second pick ban phase and being able to ban away Thoth, Sol, and Giannis still? Those are all up on the board. Finally, though, Robin is what's going to come out for Dragones, a very strong jungler right now, so they'll get to use that high damage build and some of the safety that's inherent in his kit to create some problems for the Hell and the Hou-Yi.
But this Hell pickup coming after the Robin was already locked in. Robin is known to be a god that's great for mostly just diving carries and squishies and making sure to take them out of the fight, whether it's by killing them or just lowering them to way too low of an HP threshold. But with the Hell Sylvanas pickup, a lot of sustainability being added onto the draft for all those bursty gods. And this could be slightly problematic for Dragones here, simply because how do you deal with that much sustain once those gods are able to comfortably roll into the match?
I mean, you might have to punish them early, but at a certain point, how much can you punish a Sylvanas and a Hell? At a certain point, they're just going to be able to out-sustain you. They do have some of their own, though, in the form of that raw pick, but I'm a little bit surprised. This is not like North America. They did not prioritize their mid lane picks really at all. They were both taken in the second half of the pick ban phase, which has been not the case so far, at least in like the SPL.
On the contrary, I think that was them focusing on their mid lane picks, because both of these mid laners just looking for the edge on the other, really just having their teams focus on selecting the rest of their draft, so that way the mid laners could be a little bit more confident in their pick selections, knowing what they're already going to have to be dealing with.
Well, they felt confident with this Hell pick for Hitorino, despite the fact that Latera is going to be on this Robin selection for Dragones. That could potentially be a problem for them. We'll see how well they're going to be able to get a little bit of peel for him. Hell does have that cleanse in her kit. You know, she has some ways to get herself out of trouble from Latera if she's going to be able to get that off, but it's going to require a lot of execution for her already, though. Take a look at this pressure the dual lane has been able to establish over the Uller Geb.
That's just one of the benefits of having a Sylvanas on your team. The AoE clear autos just making all the difference when it comes to establishing that early game pressure. And Nectarioid is pretty happy right now, considering that not only was he able to secure the enemy team's purple buff, but he'll be getting his own as well, already giving him a nice little boost over this Uller Geb duo.
And we just saw what made Hui so strong last season. That jungle clear that he gets is really powerful. He used to get that bonus damage onto the camps for each one of those bounces. That's not going to be quite the same on the Ricochet here now, but still able to clear those camps really quickly when he lines up those shots and right back into lane to try and establish pressure here again. Forza and Rong, you're going to have to stick back just a little bit and make sure they're playing safe.
And again, for the rest of the map, all the main focus is going to be towards trying to keep their lanes at an appropriate position where they're not really falling too far behind. They don't want to attract attention to losing side lanes, because that's just going to allow Latera on this Robin to put more pressure onto Hitorino in mid.
And that is going to be the big contention point for this match, because at a certain point, this Hell pick Taco is just going to be doing too much damage, too much sustain, and they're not going to be able to stay in those team fights with Hitorino here. So how well Latera can come in and try and slow that down is going to be important, and we're seeing it already. Latera spending some time there in the mid lane with this raw pick to try and make sure that Hitorino can't feel comfortable.
And again, there's also a lot of concern about Dragona's composition in general, because if they aren't able to get the early lead ahead of YSO Serial, I'm not really sure who's meant to be bursting out the Hell sustain on their team. I think it's going to be very tricky for them to actually work their way into the backline and have any sort of significant damage towards these sustaining Healy characters like the Hell and Sylvanas.
Now, I gotta think, Taco, I mean, talking about diving the backline and trying to get back here to Hitorino on this Hell, to me that's gotta be mostly Shinto on this Cerberus pick. How well he can get back there, use his passive to try and mitigate what the Sylvanas Hell are trying to do is gonna be pretty important here for Dragones.
And again, that could be the mentality there for Shinto, is just to be that initiating factor for his team. That might be the ideal aspect around this Cerberus pick, because Geb, while Geb can be a great initiation factor, there's also the concern that you just need peel for your carries as well, and heavy peel at that. Kale and Forza are kind of being left out to dry most of the time if their front line gets a little bit too ahead of themselves. So they've also still just got to be very careful with their positioning.
That's right, and we have seen this before where when you have the Cerberus on your team, you can be so reliant on that Stygian Torment as an initiator. It's so good at putting abilities on cooldown, like CC Immune Ultimates, like getting those relic timers as well. So if Shinto's able to do that, then Rangu, it really won't be too big of a problem for him to stay back and instead focus on the Geb shield, instead focus on knocking him up and using Cataclysm as a counter initiator. So I really do think in a lot of ways, this Dragones comp is going to be relying on Shinto to play almost perfectly on this Cerberus.
I want to see early Raven ganks, and I want them to start happening very, very shortly, because it's already approaching the 5-minute mark, and while it's still relatively early on in the game, hell, it's like running race against the clock pretty much, and how quickly you can shut her down. And even still, you can kill a hell off cooldown, and she was still going to be able to have enough sustainability in the late game if you don't continuously punish her. The big idea here is just to keep Hirurino suppressed.
We're 5 minutes in, and still a little bit slow. It's been played here by YSO Cyril and Dragones. We got no kills so far. It's still very, very even in the farm because there hasn't been a bit too big of an advantage. This is the first chance, though, for it, as Susano is rotating over to try and meet up with Shinto. He and Sanugo don't really have too much kill potential on this Cerberus. In fact, he's turning around and moving back in. Taco, you talked about how you wanted Latera to be putting a little bit more pressure on the Hirurino. I think perhaps he agrees. He did make us an aggressive start here with that Blink Relic, as opposed to Panatom, who decided to go with the Beads just to make sure he's safer against some of this control that Dragones has.
Hell was already able to finish off that Warlock staff, though, so getting a nice little addition of health. And considering that Hell already gets a little bit of movement speed as well from her light stance, it's just going to be slightly problematic for a Raven to full commit to her. I think that she might have already approached a stage where it's very difficult to punish her alone.
That's pretty interesting. These are both mages that have extra movement speed just kind of in their kits. So both of them going this Warlock staff start. It won't be as immobile as sometimes you see these mid-mages end up being. Even though they don't have any direct leaps or anything like that, they both have extra movement speed in their kits to try and help them be a little bit safer. Hell, of course, though, has that cleanse on her, too, which can get her out even a little bit better than Ra, who kind of has to rely on juking around and dancing a little bit in the heal until he's able to reposition to stay alive.
Yeah, another thing, too, about the Captain Max on the Sylvanas, actually thought there was going to be a little bit of aggression there. Instead, Hirurino's just going to attempt to steal away the right mid Harpies.
Now we've got 3 members here from YSO Cyril hanging out in the mid lane. Still in the back waiting on his speed buff as Latera, so he's not going to join them, and it ended up not being a big deal anyway. They couldn't make any kind of move. Instead, they're going to turn their attention towards these Oracles a little bit more. Neutral Farm, they're going to be added to their own corner. Some vision around that Gold Fury as well. We're approaching 7 minutes now, so still probably not really worried about anyone actually pulling that buff itself up just now, but it can still catch some rotations. Having that vision there limits some of the pathing for Dragones a little bit if they want to make sure that it is a surprise.
YSO Cyril, though, actually has a pretty strong composition for early objective sieges with that Hu Yi ultimate in particular, and then the Hell Sustain on top of that. Sylvanas just as a great zoning measure. So if anything, Dragones needs to keep an eye out really for whether or not YSO Cyril is going to look for any of those early objective pools.
They want to make sure they have a little bit of vision on that objective so they don't let that one end up falling too far behind. Another difference in builds that I'm taking a look and noticing here between the Ho Yi and Forza here on that Uller is that it looks like Forza wants to try and go for that Transcendence. Not too big a surprise to see the ability-based Hunter, but Devourer's Gauntlet still going to be the selection here for Ho Yi on being piloted here by Netroid.
Hu Yi feeling pretty comfortable with survivability in lane, considering that normally you see hunters opting for boots as their first item finish, and then they'll elect to finish off their stacking item. But Netroid having a strong enough lane lead just leads him to wanting to get those Devourer Gauntlets early on, and he's already zoning out the wave. Uller's not even bothering to step up, also making sure, might have caught sight of that Susano in the jungle.
And that could certainly be what it is, as we do have just a real brief pause here. We'll be able to get right back into the game. But you're right. Already Hou Yi been able to establish pressure over the Uller there in that duo lane. And that's surprising. A lot of the times what it is that makes Uller so strong is that he's a bit of a lane bully. He can get that pressure pretty easily in duo.
And again, the main issue there is just that it was an Uller paired with a Geb. And anytime you're taking a really aggressive hunter and pairing them with probably one of the most passive supports in the early game, you're mostly doing that just to help mitigate some of the damage that would normally occur from a ton of early game buff invades. We saw that Waiso Serial was able to invade the purple buff, but that was it. Ra was able to go and solo clear the red buff, so that kind of prevented Waiso Serial from punishing Dragones any further, but they still need to make sure that they are staying on top of their buff timers. Maybe come along, maybe see some Robin ganks actually into the duo lane, knowing that this Hou Yi doesn't have a whole lot of escape potential once that jump is down, because lacking the boots, you're lacking a lot of movement speed there.
And a lot of the times with this Geb pick, that means that your team's kind of focusing on the late game, it feels like a little bit more. Geb's not going to be a huge early game god for you, not quite like Sylvanas, who can clear the wave a little bit stronger and has that pool. So that means that later on in the game, they're really going to need him to be able to save them from those ganks with the shields, get those big cataclysms off, and set up those team fights to make up for how they had to play a little bit more passive here early.
And again, both sides actually just doing their best to keep their jungle farmed and on par. The Captain Max in a stare down against this Geb. Geb wants the shockwave to steal Harpies, but Susano and Hell are going to help come through just to make sure they don't lose that farm.
That's right. Also looking for the pull there was Captain Max on the wrong. You couldn't quite find it. So instead, the Geb going to be able to just roll on out and be safe there in that mid lane. That was one of the first times we saw them really go for an initiation, and it wasn't a hard commit. That was sort of like, if I get that one, if we get the pull in, and then we're able to get him out of position, we can follow up on it. But still, so far, no one's really hard committed. And I gotta think that favors Waiso Serial a little bit here, not just because of his help, but because they've gone with some more aggressive starts. Like we said, Latera has Blink as opposed to a safer Relic, and usually that's something that's used to try and get early ganks off.
Panitham probably not complaining about Robin not looking for those early gank opportunities, because Susano not necessarily going to be able to match the pressure that a Robin could possibly introduce. And so for Panitham, it's just been a priority to focus on that farm and being all over the map, kind of hovering the areas of the map that he thinks ganks could possibly break out. For instance, we've seen him spending a lot of time towards this mid-duo lane area, kind of just expecting, I think, Latera to play a little bit more aggressive.
And you mentioned Panitham was happy Latera wasn't really going aggressive. I think Kale is playing super defensive safely right now in the mid lane, and that's why he hasn't gotten to be aggressive. Usually, Susano is a pretty good matchup into the Ra because Ra doesn't have the movement abilities that some other mages has, can't jump away from some of his control, and Susano can kind of bully him a little bit with the pull, with the ultimate as well. But this time he hasn't had that same opportunity. Rongyu, though, is the one that's meeting that opportunity right now, gets locked down inside the Suns. Finally, first blood going the way of Waiso Serial just past the 10-minute mark, and it's on the Hunter.
And again, that's just one of the downsides of having a Geb in the early game stages. Not really much else he could have done there. He dropped the Cataclysm. That was excellent, but a shield usually isn't going to save your life. That was just great ultimate placement from Nethryon on the Hou Yi.
Yeah, he used his whole kit, Taco. Knock up, Cataclysm, shield, shelled himself as well. It just wasn't anywhere near enough, and he ends up getting punished by the commitment there from Panatom in that duo lane, and that's going to help Nethryon out, who gets that first blood to try and help out even a little bit further over Forza, where you already had the lane pressure. You can see a little bit of an experience in gold lead starting to come out. Nothing really too substantial, but it's the beginnings.
With the Shell Rally being down, though, on the Geb, that's going to provide an opening for Waiso Serial. If Panitham wants to continue to be aggressive, he's not going to have to worry about that Relic coming into play to possibly save the life of anybody from Dragona's last minute.
Latera catching up Panitham here in the jungle. Actually, he's the one that's going a little bit deep into the enemy jungle, is Latera. Panitham going to come over and just make sure that Shinto can't go any further aggressive, so Sunugo can just confirm his own blue buff. Kukulkan, of course, doesn't need the blue buff as much, but just getting his own farm is what's really more important there for him. As we take a little trip back over towards mid lane, where Captain Max just kind of hanging out, Taco.
Theodorino and Captain Max pushing up a little bit more, mostly just to clear away the wards, have a nice little sentry on those choke points, and again, we're back into this lull of things after Waiso Serial takes the first blood, and the Dragones just don't really seem like they have any real openings to try and respond right away.
No, it doesn't look like they have yet. So far, it feels like Dragonis are playing this one a little bit patiently. You know, maybe you could say a little bit too patiently, but they really haven't given much up. The question is, are they going to be able to hang with them in this late-game team fight or mid to late-game team fight as we start to approach that mid-game now? And it seems like they feel confident that they can.
Well, what's interesting is that Netrioid actually looks as though he's opting for crit in that third item slot. And normally whenever you're against a double Guardian composition, especially Geb at that, crit isn't a main priority. But Netrioid just feeling really good about that lead that he's already established in the duel lane might be one of the main reasons why, because Geb won't necessarily be able to counter out that crit damage early on.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Maybe he's not going to be trying to focus the Geb so early on, but here's that early Gold Fury, not too early Gold Fury you were talking about. Drops down the Suns, but Forza's here. Rongyu is here as well. Dragonis are able to take that gold. Fury-wise, still Serial can't quite confirm that one, so they go into a 50-50, and they end up dropping it.
That is not the 50-50 loss that you want to have, though. That's going to tie everything back up for Dragonis, and what could have been the first real lead of the game for Waiso Serial instead is going to get completely turned against them. And Bonito and Netrioid both dropped both of their ultimates just trying to confirm that. So it's actually a huge win for Dragonis that I believe Forza was able to steal it away.
Yeah, and they don't have the same burst confirm that you might get if you have like a Raw on your own team, a Soul, a Thoth, any other major. That big burst ultimate. Hell does do plenty of damage, yes, but this left the door open a little bit, and unless their wards just fell off, they didn't have that much vision control around the Gold Fury either. That really felt like maybe we can get this, maybe we can't, that they full committed onto, and they were able to get that one stolen away was Dragonis.
I also just like the play there from Uller, just because making that sort of rotation isn't necessarily something that is your... It's kind of your duty in the early game, I should say, as a hunter.
Sure. Because
the second that he recognized that Netrioid was no longer in the lane, he started moving over towards the Gold Fury just to give it a face check, not to really overcommit or put himself out of position, but he was able to sound off to his team, let them know, hey, they're pulling the Gold Fury, and while he's still hovering looking for the steal opportunities, he's got reinforcements along the backside, so Waiso Serial didn't really have any opportunities to try and punish Dragonis afterwards.
And to clarify for those at home, it's not your job always to jump into the Gold Fury when your team's taking it. It is your job to go check it and get that information for your team, as Taco was saying. So that's what we want. Don't always go dive in and throw your life away, because we said it's your job. You check it, make sure. And when you're someone like Uller, you can do just like Forza did here and get that safe contest a little bit, especially when the positioning from Waiso Serial was a little soft. All three of them that were there were back on their side of the Gold Fury pit, so Forza could step up a little bit further to try and contest it without worrying as much as he would have had maybe Captain Max or Panatom stepped forward a little bit to try and force him back out and control that space a little better.
And even with the double bounce Ricochet, it's still very hard to out-confirm objectives or buffs even, especially against that Uller burst. Just so much actual burst potential on Uller's first and third abilities.
Yeah, it's so much damage that he's able to do, especially with this build path that he's taken here so far. He's making sure he's going to be doing plenty of damage, has that Transcendence finished off. This is something, though, that I have been wanting to talk to you about a little bit, Taco. This Magai's Cloak has been rushed a lot lately, and it's been rushed on Hunters. We've seen it rushed on mid laners, on junglers. It feels like just about everyone is finding a place to put this Magai's Cloak in their build for that CC immunity.
At a higher level of play, and especially towards these competitive levels, teams tend to not really fight if ultimates are down or if they know that their relics aren't available, and that kind of gives you the room to build an early Magi's Blessing. And especially for an Uller, you don't have a CC immune ultimate, so you're already kind of at a net loss when boxing into a Hu Yi. The fact that Netrioid is further ahead of Forza, if even by a slim margin, it's still enough for him to warrant wanting to pick up the Magi's to not get hit by that Mark of the Crow Ricochet combination for the stun out into the Suns and then wind up dead before his team is able to do anything about it.
This time, Dragonis are the ones pulling the objective. Let's see if Waiso Serial can make the steal. This time, though, they do have the ultimate, the Searing Pain coming up from KO. It's exactly what they needed to get that one confirmed over on the duo side. Forza ends up getting solo, or not soloed. It was actually the gank for Panatom, so they did find that kill. They get it killed as Waiso Serial, but Dragonis get the objective.
In early game objective play is the primary focus here for Dragonis. Bonito with a great pull-in, though, onto kill, but not anything else after the fact.
And now blinking onto the back is Laterra, but really ends up standing inside that heal from the Raw, trying to help him out, box out a little bit more. doesn't find any damage, instead finds half health on himself. And now we're seeing a little bit of that hell sustain come in here from Hidorino, and they can afford to stick around here a little bit in mid lane, paired up with Captain Max and the Sylvanas. They're all full health again and ready to go back in. Panatom finds the pull onto Kale, pulls him right back in. Hidorino finds that kill. The engagement continues. Panatom's low. He's got to get out of there, but Laterror cannot find a way out. Netrioid finds that kill, his second of the match so far. 4 kills for Waiso Serial as the tier 1 falls as well.
And they're all still healthy enough that Gold Fury is about to respawn. This could be a potential, another Gold Fury attempt from Waiso Serial. They dropped the first one, and it didn't go their way, but the second one might be a little bit of a different story. These hell abilities are really starting to swing now, and Hidorino is just having so much sustain. I mean, we saw how healthy everybody was in mid lane, even after going into the T1 tower.
It's crazy how much sustain they're getting out. And this is what we were alluding to around minute 4, minute 7, when there wasn't much pressure coming out from Dragonis, that eventually Hidorino was going to get to this point where he's able to heal this much. And Taco, that was, to me, built off of their response to that Pyromancer aggression. They were able to go deep in dual lane for Forza because there was no rotation going to be coming. They were able to go deep in mid lane because everyone had to back after committing onto the Pyromancer and using Kale's ultimate. That was why So Serial recognizing their advantage and capitalizing.
And again, Raw, now with both actives not being available, it's going to be very problematic if they try to work their way into the Gold Fury pit. They're probably already aware that this is being looked at, and they've spotted it out, 3-man grouping from Dragones, and it's just beneath them working a serve or a zoning duty.
Working on zoning duty and also getting controlled. Serial do confirm the objective this time. Kill a little bit too early with the Searing Pain, so they are able to take that Gold Fury down, but they got to trade up their jungler to make it happen.
That's worth it.
Yeah.
That's always going to be worth it, trading out the jungler's life. Great response, though, from Dragones. Small grouping. Could be a possible T1 tower siege attempt, but not going to have enough damage just yet to keep their creep wave alive and really look towards this tower.
Now Hidorino is the one getting engaged on, drops down the Aegis for himself to survive the initial burst, but finally Shinto's here, the one we said could be a problem for this Hell mid. Stygian Torment comes out, controls her, and pulls her right back down, where she's able to fall in a little bit more damage from the rest of the team. They haven't put anything into the tier 1 tower though, so now able to rotate over Sanungal on this Cucullin pick, gets axe stun, Thorns comes out to try and return back a little bit of damage, and he can keep fighting, but they've defended the tier 1 and kept everyone alive.
At the cost of Hell's actives, though. So, again, the mid laner's kind of just going back and forth, exchanging these actives. And if you'll look at Hidorino's build, actually, he's opted for a sprint as opposed to a purification beads. That's going to make it so he's relying heavily on this cleanse, I think, to get him away from those CC ultimates that, such as Shinto's and even Laterra's Brute. Everything's going to be banking off of whether or not Hidorino is going to have the proper timing on these cleanses.
And it's going to have to be excellent because there's a little bit of a time after you cast it where then that cleanse effect comes in. So he can, if he recognizes Shinto's coming in, put that cleanse down and avoid the ultimate. But it's a narrow window. He's got to make sure that he's perfect on it. But I want to talk a little bit about that Gold Fury where we saw Panatom end up getting caught out. His beads were still on cooldown for like another 10 seconds when that fight happened. He might have had to use those on that gank in duo lane way back when.
It was a small amount of overconfidence as well from beneath them, just because he recognizes that he has a fairly large lead for a jungler, at least up against the Uller and the Ra at that time period. But one X stun is all it really took, and whether it was 10 seconds or 1 second, he wasn't able to get away from that CC, and it cost him his life because he's still a Susano and he's still incredibly squishy. I think that's probably one of the main reasons, though, why we see him opting into a defensive item in that 5th item slot.
That is where he's going to be going with his build, checking in with everyone else's builds. Netrioid is very much all in on this crit build, as you pointed out. He went right into Deathbringer first item. Following this up with the Poison Star, so this is a little bit closer back towards right at the beginning of Season 5. What we saw these hunters building was this crit into the Poison Star, because Deathbringer gave so much crit chance initially, and Poison Star gave you kind of everything you wanted afterwards. Why is Netrioid still valuing it here now?
Poison Star most likely just to have that slow effect happen. Off of the crit, you get that nice little slow effect, and also the damage mitigation, or the damage reduction, excuse me.
Right.
So that could also be pretty beneficial, especially against a god like Robin, who can deal a significant amount of burst damage. I like what Netrioid and Captain Max are doing right now, though. Kind of just toying with the idea of pulling this Pyromancer beneath them, and Hidorino there for backup as well, but seems as though Dragones aren't going to recognize that they're still committing to this Pyro, and they're just going to let it go.
They did give this one up. They really needed to get that objective, though, did YSO Serial, because Forza never rotated. He's behind right now with Netroid, so instead he just kind of stuck around in lane and farmed, and YSO Serial recognizes the rotation's coming out onto that Uller, who was able to jump away for now, so he might end up being okay underneath the pressure from Hitorino and for Panatom as well. Actually not. They're chasing him down. Now comes the ultimate for Panatom. They eventually do find Forza after he went in too far trying to get some farm.
Both of his purification beads and the Angas are no longer available either. Yeah. So the moment that Forza spawns, everybody's just going to try to jump on top of him again. Uller is so vulnerable without those actives being available, and considering that he also just is behind, it makes him even easier to punish.
Taco and the Mad Guy's cloak. He had all of the help he could have, I guess, wanted by himself with the Aegis, the beads, and the Mad Guy's cloak. It still was not enough. Panatom and Hitorino able to chase him down. He's been a little bit too far trying to get that farm. Now Latera's the one who has his Aegis forced out under the pressure from Hitorino and Panatom yet again. But Shinto's here, and Shinto has the damage, forces Panatom to retreat. The Suns are dropped down by Netroid as well, but in response, Shinto drops his own ultimate. Stitching Torment brings Captain Max back. He responds with the Wrath of Terra, knocks him up, but now he's just putting out that ghastly breath. It's a little bit too much. They back away from the Ricochet from Netroid for now. Sanugo continuing to frontline for them, but now pulls in the rest of his team.
And again, you can tell that Dragones want to keep up the pursuit, but there's just no real punish opportunities for them. Sanugo is way too boosted on this Kokolin. There's no way that anybody's going to really be touching him, sitting at level 20. Got plenty of defensive items all lined to make him more than tanky enough against the likes of Dragones. And instead, Panatom and Netroid gonna opt to farm out those Oracles, get some free ward vision onto the Gold Fury. But that's not gonna deter Dragones from pulling it.
Now it's been started up only Netroid here, and we just saw him use that Sunbreaker ultimate. He does have a little bit of help, though, in the form of Panatom, who's rotating around the backside. Gonna need to get there quickly, charges the ultimate, sends it through, and steals it away. Gold Fury goes the way of YSO Serial. Panatom now on the disengage path as Shinto continues to push in. That's gonna be enough for him to not only disengage, but get a little bit of healing up from Hitorino and Captain Max, and he's ready to go back in looking for a little bit more.
And a beautiful cleanse from Hitorino there as well onto Panatom, but now it's going to be Panatom pulling in the Terra, trying to get an invade off onto this red buff. YSO Serial not done with Dragones just yet. They're going to keep pushing forward and pull in onto the Geb, and Rongyu's just going to get exploded.
I don't even know if that Cataclysm got off as Netroid takes that Geb out of the fight. Now they're going in on a Shinto, drops the Suns to cut off the path to the right and takes him down when he goes to the left. Sanugo gets the second kill of this engagement so far. 5 members of YSO Serial still alive. Gold Fury has fallen as well. They've completely turned this fight in their favor, even though it was Dragones who started it.
Brawlers in Divine Ruin still aren't enough to prevent the sustain from YSO Serial, and this is the devastation that a Hell causes when you just let her safely farm up in the early game. Dragones needed to sit on top of mid lane non-stop, but instead, they played it passive at the start, and it went all in favor of YSO Serial.
And even still, we're seeing the hardwood come out from Rongu. I thought that they might be trying to build into a Pestilence to get a little bit more anti-heal out from this Dragones composition, but not going to be the case. They're valuing that aura instead. YSO Serial now get to add the Fire Giant to their list of accolades for the game. 7-1 in the kills, 25 minutes in, and they're enjoying about an 8,000 or so gold lead in their name. The experience lead's pretty high as well, but we're approaching some level 20 here, so not as big a deal as that gold lead they're sitting on top of.
There just isn't enough burst right now from Dragones. There's just no one capable of really taking Hell out of the team fight, because the moment that Dragones try to collapse on top of Hitorino, you just have the entirety of YSO Serial there to back him up, and there's just no getting close to this Hell pick without taking down some of the other members first. But who do you take down from YSO Serial without first dying yourself?
No, there's no one that you can try and step up to. And don't forget, the crit build is being going by Netroid right now. If any of these squishier characters step up, they're going to get blown up perhaps a little bit more than they're used to right now. He is swinging particularly hard with this build path that he's gone so far with the Deathbringer into that Poison Star, rounding it out with the Aussie to get the double lifesteal build going for him as well. There's not really anyone they can try and stand against. That's too much sustain. Double lifesteal, the Sylvanas, the Hell. That's too much now. They gotta do something about this.
It's a pretty gross amount of sustain. It's very, very hard for Dragones to have any sort of leeway room either. These fights are just so punishing if they're not able to find a kit or find a kill, because the moment that you use your entire kit and all of your team fighting ultimates, it's just gonna be the gateway pretty much for Waiso Serial, as long as they don't lose any of their members.
Yeah, tier 2 towers in mid and in the duo lane have fallen, as we do have a brief pause coming out. But Taco, you touched on it just now. If you take them down to 99%, you might as well not have taken them down at all, because they're just going to get sustained back up right now. Is this Waiso Serial composition? It's 100 or nothing, it feels like.
Team fights are just so unforgiving right now for Dragones. Again, the early game was really their only actual opportunity to try and punish these sort of late game oriented picks, but the moment that Hiro, was able to safely farm away, finish getting all the stacks for that Warlock staff and getting that giant boost of HP, it just makes it even more difficult for the Robin to have any sort of serious impact. It's almost like they need to, or Dragones needs to have like flawless execution on their team fighting ultimates. It's got to be an all-in from Letera and Kale on their ultimates if they want to have enough damage to try and take out the Hell.
And we talked about this earlier. This team from Dragones is going to be very reliant on Shinto here on multiple fronts, Taco, and we haven't seen it yet. He really hasn't been a part of anything that they've done so far. He's gotten some good ultimates off, yes, and those fights that he's involved in are the ones that look the best, but they need more from him right now. They need more from his passive. They need more from that Stygian Torment to go in and try and set up these team fights and pull them back out. But at this point, with Hell online, with the cleanse, with beads being available on Panatom and as well as Netrioid, is it too late?
And no real surprises either from Dragones that they didn't even bother trying to defend their left standing towers.
Right.
Just no point whatsoever. They might as well bank everything into fighting on those Phoenixes. Phoenix serving as that 6-man potential, probably going to be their best opportunity for taking out anybody from Waiso Serial. Not even just the Hell, but hopefully maybe some of the front lines. Tanungol and the Sylvanas have both felt practically impossible to even take down, and so if you're struggling killing the squishies, it's only going to be that much harder against the tanks.
And if Waiso Serial played this patiently, the Siege should be pretty easy for them here. What we've seen so far when these Sieges go wrong is a bit of an overcommit underneath these Phoenixes. As long as they make sure their patience and play around their heals, they're good, but already starting the fight before they even get to the Phoenixes. They pulled them right back into the Sunbreaker to Netrioid. 2 big ultimates for them are down already, but they got Shinto's and Rongyu's in exchange. Now Sanugo's going into the back line, keeping back force and trying to be a part of the fight. There came the ultimate out from Kale. Didn't quite find the mark, though, that he was looking for. Now comes the backup and the re-sustain from Waiso Serial, and the Phoenix is already fallen.
And again, Netria was low, but what's low to a Hell? He's already back to full health between the Fire Giant and these Hell heals, and Phoenix was just completely shredded away there. Netria doesn't even really have any pen.
Yeah.
He just had the damage alongside of his team, and there was nothing Dragones could do about it.
Nothing at all except for watch as the Gold Fury now goes down for Waiso Serial. Make that gold lead up to now nearly, 16,000? Yeah, nearly 17,000 really in their favor. Waiso Serial show just how easy for this composition their siege is. Taco, they didn't even get any kills. I don't think they even forced anyone back to the fountain in that fight. They just were able to create enough space and sustain through the damage long enough to shred that objective.
That aggression from Panitum and Netroid in the mid lane was what won Waiso Serial the free Phoenix, because without the Cerberus and Geb ultimates, they really need those in order to have any sort of real setup potential for Letera and Kale. And Forza, we all know that he's been having a really rough time in this match, just in general, kind of getting looked at early on and just getting punished for not having any sort of real escape methods.
No, that's a good point you make, Taco. Without the Stygian Torment, without the Cataclysm, what control do they have? I mean, yes, Letera has a root and some slows. I mean, Forza has the Axe Stun, but nothing nearly as substantial as what Panitum is bringing just within his own kit. Nothing as substantial as the Wrath of Terror or the double ultimates that can come out from Sanuka with his Rage form. So they are very reliant, as we've been saying all game, on Shinto and then on Rongyu as well. And when those forced out early, it was an easy path in for Waiso Serial. Now they take down the Fire Giant as well, regroup, so they can go in and make another push. Only 2 Phoenixes and the Titan remain.
Some of these last-minute back-in buys, all these carries just trying to finish off their builds, maybe pick up a couple of red pots to get that nice little additional boost of power. And, of course, I do like what Dragones chose to do by pushing out the dual lane pretty heavily. It's going to force Waiso Serial to have to spend a little bit of time re-establishing lane control there, but not really too concerned. They just sent Hirorino instead to be the lone clearer of minions in that left-hand lane.
Can we see the healing here that Hirorino has done so far? I just want to take a look and see how much it's been this game. I wouldn't even be surprised if Captain Max had a good bit of it as well this far into the game. Panatom goes in onto Latera and does find him. There it is. We see that healing stack come up. It's pretty substantial, but they force him out. Latera has to back up. Can't continue to engage. Sanungal, though, no one told him. He's continuing to fight alone up against the two Kiris of Dragonis. Now with that Thorns ticking, he can force them back. And all alone is Netroid to take down the Phoenix. Kale falls as well to the pressure from Panatom. And now the two-man knockup comes out from Captain Max, forcing them back even further. Moving into the Titan room now. RY So Serial, I think they've had enough of this one. They're ready to try and bring it down. Dragonis aren't ready to let it happen for free, though. They do push it back. Netroid's brought down to half health and forced us to leave. But again, they've got Sprint. They've got these Hell Heals. Sanugal's back up to full. And now they can come re-siege the Phoenix on the left.
That is just such an awful thing to look at when you see a Kakulin immediately back to full HP. Same thing for Netroid. It's almost like the fight never happened to begin with. Shinto going to be forced to run back into the fountain. Latero trying to block down this hell, but it might end up costing him his life. He's going to have to ult back into his fountain.
It's a good Cataclysm that came out there from Wrongview, but who can capitalize on it? There's no one on Dragonis who's free to try and follow that up. Now they even have a little bit of fire minions helping them out. No way for Dragonis to stand tall against this one. Why So Serial win this game 32 minutes in off the back of Hirorino and Captain Max, and that's sustained.
That was gross.
Yeah,
Watching a team take exactly 0 damage pretty much throughout the entirety of a whole team fight. And Dragonas are just non-stop throwing out every single cooldown that comes up, and it just made no difference whatsoever.
Well, Taco, it came down to the way they played that early game. We talked about it throughout, that they got to try and put some pressure here onto Hirorino on that hell pick in the middle lane, and it never came. Never did we see any ganks from Latera. Never did we see any kind of pressure from Kale there on the raw mid. Just got to free farm until they got to that point where you couldn't touch them.
Between Latera not being able to gank early on, I think a big part of that also comes from the fact that Duo just had so much control.
Sure.
I love that Sylvanas Hu Yi combination. It was a very smart response, I think, against what Dragonas were trying to accomplish in the early game, because the second they pick up Raven, you kind of already have or put the mentality into the enemy team's head. We're looking to dive you, and we're looking to consistently do it without punishment. That's what Robin tends to do best, but Latero just never really had any actual openings outside of the first 5 minutes, but no real surprises here. They're already trying to make the adjustments, taking away that hell immediately.
That's got to feel pretty good if you're Hirorino, though. In this meta, to get them to waste one of their first bans on hell, I mean, after that game, I don't know if you can call it a waste, but there's so many strong picks in the meta right now that leaves a lot still available. Daji, Serket, Camazotz, Kakul, and everything still available. And with their pick, why So Serial choose to take Kakul, and I don't blame him. Sanungal looked great on that last game.
He had a relatively quiet laning phase, not really too much action happening between the Kakul and Cerberus matchup, but what else do you really expect? All the tension was being diverted purely into that mid-duo aspect early on, but I do agree. I like the Kakul pick again here. Going to already provide some great zoning opportunities and a pretty solid frontline composition already.
And this could function a little bit like a third ban here, by taking away the Susano pick away from Panitam, who looked so great on it last game. So now that's going to be on the side of Dragones. Unbots, though, remember, that was one of the bans that we saw last game, too. So now we're going to get to see maybe a little bit of what had Dragones so worried about this Unbots pick here, as Panitam looked great last game on Susano. Now going to be piloting the Unbots.
It's almost like these teams are trading off picks, because Geb's going to be the next god of choice for Why So Serial. Love what Geb can provide as well to a team fight, and I also like the idea of a Geb Cataclysm and a Humbots ultimate to follow up after the fact. When all those purification beads are getting burned away, one of them's going to usually be able to catch somebody off guard, and whoever it is probably not going to stand much chance to stay alive for the duration of it.
We won't get to see a duo lane rematch this time. Ho Yi has been taken by Dragonis, and then they banned away the Uller and the Hachiman. They're trying to get this duo lane to go a little bit better for them this time, it feels like, with a bit more focus towards it. They got the Ho Yi and took off some top-tier hunters, but really, it was the support last time that kind of made a big problem. With the Geb over there, they won't have as much pressure.
There's a slight possibility here that we could maybe see an on her pickup for Why So Serial. I like the Agni, though. Again, another god that's great for controlling a lot of these team fights, and with the peel that can be provided by a Geb and Kakolin, should be a relatively safe pickup. But Net3 with the Jing Wei, that also makes a ton of sense. The guy obviously loves having those triple crit builds.
Yes.
I've been seeing it from him for the entirety of the SGS pretty much, where he tends to just go straight into the Deathbringer with the Poison Star Wind Demon pickups as well.
Ice is going to be the selection to round it out there for Dragones. I like this. Isis can be a little bit slow early, can kind of be punished because she doesn't have as much movement as we saw last game. Some of those mid-mages were the same case, but that ultimate that she's able to provide with that circle of protection, she has so much control out of a mid-lane mage. This could work.
I think normally I would really like the way that the Isis can complement Dragones draft, but here, not so much, simply because Hirorino on the Agni is going to be able to just constantly drop bombs on top of that Isis ultimate. So the Isis ult could maybe end up working against Dragones in the later team fights when Agni probably has that Divine Ruin online, has the bombs that are just going to be consistently up, feeling all the time, just dropping the little bits of burst.
Yeah, that damage that he's able to provide so comfortably from so far away could reduce, as you said, some of the healing that they could rely on here with Kale's circle of protection. Again, though, this game we're going to be seeing it a little bit differently between the jungle mid combo from Waiso Serial. The Unbots and the Agni combination, both characters that are going to change entirely once they hit that level 5 mark and get those ultimates online. So I would not be surprised if we see them trying to go aggressive once those two take over and grab those ultimates.
A lot of circles as well, so a lot of team fighting control as Zardio gets a little bit aggressive here in the duo lane, but Net3 had already used that knock-up early on for the poke, so it just doesn't have it available for the wave. But they're going to have solid enough lane clear that they don't have to worry about the early game invades.
Yeah, this time it's much more even over here in the duo lanes. And I was going to say that we didn't see the different starts either. It was just 1v1 in mid, the 2v2 happening in duo. This way everybody can go back and get their own buffs. You see them both grabbing purple and red at about the same time. Junglers making it over to the solo lane as well, trying to help with the blue. It actually wasn't dropped by Panitam. He came up to try and maybe see if he could steal the blue away. It's already been cleared, and instead he'll find nothing.
Panitam, though, clearly still wanting to hover this solo side of the map, really just looking to cut off Letera on any gank potential, but Isis and Susano, nobody really wants to mess with that early game.
No.
I like the decision to back off there from Panitam.
No, those first 3 abilities from Isis provide a lot of control in a team fight between the stun, between the silence, and then she does get that extra movement when she's using her first ability. Beads already forced out, though, from Panitam, trying to get away from exactly that control we were just talking about between the Susano and the Isis, and is able to get away, but at the cost of his beads.
Humbats is just one of those gods where you're not really looking to do anything, and you just want to stay alive until you hit level 5. Once the Fear No Evil is online, then go for it. Feel free to play as aggressive as possible. You can always drop that Fear No Evil defensively and usually get out. But right now, Panitam is only level 3, so not going to have that ability available just yet, but still keeping an eye out for it.
Rotated in. This time Letera wasn't there when he came into the mid lane, but Kale had backed up already, so no real chance for any more aggression going to be able to come out from him coming over into the mid lane. Just going to help out with the clear. We saw a little bit there, Sanugo getting a bit of the better of Shinto early on. Not too big of a surprise that the Amaterasu can struggle a little bit in those early levels, and we know how much extra pressure Cucullin gets with those rage transformations and essentially a whole new set of abilities once he takes over. And he's almost built up enough rage to transform here again, even though it's Shinto who hit level 4 first.
But check out this possible rotation from Letera. Not going to work his way over to solo lane just yet, although Shinto, with the priority focus onto the creep wave, he's still going to have his archers left standing as Sunungo is going to be forced to eat that damage and still have to worry about out-clearing the Amaterasu in the next wave.
Yeah, that's likely what it is, that Shinto's putting a little more focus into clearing the wave, because Sanugo should have gotten the blue buff on his own, whereas Shinto and Letera split the farm over the blue buff, so if anything, I would expect him to tick over a little bit sooner, but this time, though, Panitam comes over and drops that blue buff for him. This time he can run back in with that available to him. The actual buff itself won't help him too much, but he's more just concerned with making sure they secure it for their team. It's
interesting, too, that Dragones keep placing a very aggressive wards onto Waiso Serial's dual lane buffs, and yet they're not really looking for any sort of early gank opportunities with that vision.
Yeah, that's right. They're putting the aggressive wards up there, but we haven't seen an invade come out. We haven't seen any particular rotations come over from the jungle just yet. So maybe it's just more for information, trying to keep an eye on where the opposition's going to be, more than trying to set up any kind of gank for themselves. Once again, though, YSO have a little bit of dual lane pressure over here between Captain Max and Netrioid this time, up against that Ardio. Usually you feel like Ardio's pretty good for establishing some lane pressure for herself, but I think they've just been a little bit outcleared.
I think they also feel as though they're going to get ganked early.
Sure.
And that could be another reason why we see Dragonas choosing to play so passive, because a Hui Ardio lane will almost always outclear Geb Jingwei. Geb Jingwei is not a lane that should be having this much control over duo. I think that Forza is mostly just concerned about the fact that there could be some early gank up or potential, and he doesn't want to find himself out of position and be put as far behind as he was in game number 1.
Snoogle ends up pretty low health-wise over there in the solo lane. He's starting to sustain that back up, though. Still has 2 more health chalice ticks remaining for him, so he can try and heal back up if need be, as well as the health shield when he ticks over into that rage form. So he'll back up a little bit, but he's not afraid to go back in if need be. Checking back in with Panitum, though, he has now ticked over level 5. Both our junglers have, so that Fear No Evil we've been talking about is now online. He has an opportunity to start looking for some ganks in these lanes.
And the Purification beads are back as well for Panitum.
Yep.
Dragonas got a great force out of the Purification beads of Panitum, but then they didn't really do anything with that. They kind of just let him safe farm up until level 5. I would have liked to see some invades from Latera again, but this could be a strong teamwork opportunity for Sanungol and Panitum, as Panitum's going to drop that Fear No Evil straight onto Shinto, looking for the early kill.
They force them back towards Sanungol, but the immediate response from Latera is just too strong. They get first blood to Dragonas as Panitum goes back to the base. Sanungol now being chased down by that extra movement speed and the dazzling offensive that's still available. Jumps over that last tick, which is the one that's going to stun. No pull available just yet, no pull. They do go back in for that dot, but it's not going to be enough. Able to make it out of that one is Sanungol, but Ardio's here. Is he looking to dive?
It's not over just yet. Sanungol knows. Better not take the risk underneath the T1 tower with the back, just in case. And Dragonas, I like what they did there by just focusing on clearing the way so they can go for the push in. Sanungol knows that he's got Captain Max on his backside. He's going to look for the bait out. Isn't able to clear the creep wave right away, though, and because of that, Dragonas' solo laner is not going to take any of the tower aggro. Instead, going to be able to get out of there safe and sound.
And Sanungol had to try and find a way to stick around as Netroid goes aggressive in the dual lane. Airstrike goes in off the mark. Didn't quite cover that last wall. Now going to take the Sunbreaker in response from Forza, along with helping him get a little bit of clear so that he can feel comfortable backing. But the solo laners had to make sure they were extra careful clearing that wave up. They both used teleport already.
That was worth it for Netroid. He's got the vision to know, and he saw the aggression that just happened on solo. Can recognize that there is an opportunity to go in on duo without getting punished from a gank by the Susano.
Yeah, and anytime Jingwei can force you to back, it's going to be in her favor, since she can just back faster than you with her passive and fly back basically all the way to lane. So she won't be getting here too much later than Forza, and she'd already pushed up a wave when he had to back.
But this is what I love about Jingwei, is just using that passive to consistently farm the back Harpies before coming back into the lane. It's not very noticeable at first, but over time, you start to develop a little bit of a level lead on Jingwei naturally, and Forza not being able to establish any real lane pressure against the Jingwei is, again, kind of falling back into the same habit of the previous match, where Dragonas are just not taking their winning matchups when they have them.
Taco, I think you might be right. Forza seems really wary of getting ganked over here in duo. The one who really needs to be wary, though, is Panitum. Geb Shield is enough to get him out of the dangerous situation that he'd found himself in up in that jungle corridor on the Chaos side. Able to jump away, but very passive Forza's playing in this lane. It's not as if he's getting tremendously out-pressured here by Netroid on this Jingwei. He's just kind of giving it up.
He's just letting Netroid do whatever he wants, and he's going to give up his purple buff for free. Meanwhile, Captain Max getting heavily aggressed on. All these ultimates being dropped on top of him, and Gale's going to be able to get the last hit. First blood kill for the Isis, but that's only going to put 2 on the board now for Dragonas.
And got the cooldowns out of Geb before he fell as well. Had to use Cataclysm to try and keep himself alive. Use the Relic too, so even once Max is back up, he won't be quite at that full Geb strength that we know him for. Sanungol teleported back in to try and keep his tower alive. He'll be able to do just that. Gonna take the safer path here as Shinto and even proxy farm a little bit. Panitum, though, wants to keep chasing on the wrong you. doesn't have the Fear No Evil available, so got to get this done the natural way. Stun came out to try and slow him down, but now getting a little bit of peel help from the RDO. Hitorino, though, too much with the rain fire over the top. Finds Wrong U for the first kill for Waiso Serial. Now with that dazzling offensive, getting chased down. Gapsho keeps him from taking too much damage, and Panitum can just walk away.
That was beautifully executed by Hitorino. That entire play does not happen without him. Between the stun setup into landing every single one of those bombs onto the RDO. And then, of course, you've always got the get peel to help out. And Nethroi now in solo lane, actually attacking Shinto. Both Sanungal and Nethroi probably going to commit and find it.
This is why we consider the Jingwei a semi-global peer, because with that passive, she doesn't have to always go back towards duo. She can fly a little bit towards solo like we're seeing and help get a kill over here in the solo lane. Forza's pushing up, and I like this. The rotation's coming out from Panitum to defend that tier 1 over in left, and they can continue to try and aggress the tier 1 in solo. Cataclysm comes out, and the ultimate from the Rage form as well pushes him into the wall. Captain Max finds the last hit for the second kill in solo lane. Sanungal going to keep committing, trying to find the tier 1. I think they thought that was a stronger push than this. They probably could have forced that tower down, and Panitum finds Forza over on the left-hand side of the map as well with the Fear No Evil across the map. Waiso Serial win big with 3 kills.
The Purification Bees just came out a little bit too late there from Forza, and even if he'd gotten them off sooner, I'm not sure he would have survived that strong burst damage out of Panitum. You can't tell if he might have gotten a crit there thanks to the Humbat's passive, but either way, he's going to claim the life of Forza, and again, that is just a huge win, all in all, for Waiso Serial.
Well, it was such clean play across the map when you think about it. Dragonis were not sure how to respond to it. Yes, Netroid came over here to the dual lane, and Forza thinks, well, there's no possible way I can rotate with a Jingwei over to solo. Let me just push up duo. That should be safe. But no, Panitum rotates over and wins the 1v1 up against him, and as you said, gets the relic out of him too. A big win across the map for Waiso Serial now, as they're up 4-2 in the kills and have about 1,000 gold lead for themselves as well.
They've also got all the pressure for this Gold Fury, although they're not really looking to bait any early team fights just yet onto these objectives. Not really wanting to take the risk, but Nethroi now has a 2-level lead over Forza. And again, this is one of those matchups where you kind of expect the Hu Yi to try and take the advantage early on, especially with Forza having gone for the Transcendence. So anytime you're opting for Transcendence over the Sustain of the Devourer's Gauntlets, you're definitely looking to play more aggressive.
Panitum goes in, Circle of Protection. Committed there by Kale. Felt like there was a little more pressure than there was, I think Kale did. So that's not going to be available for them, a big team fighting ultimate. And Panitum continuing to push aggressively, I think, towards duo lane here, Taco. Netria goes in and takes the tower aggro first. Airstrike sets him up for the overhand smash to finish it. Panitum rotates right on over after getting that pressure in mid. Tier 1 tower going to fall, and they find the kill. And things are still going well for the rest of the team in mid lane. Cataclysm comes out. Not quite enough damage for Hitorino. Pulls him right back into the ultra from Susano, who does get the trade 1-for-1 now onto the support and keeps pushing.
Again, though, the fact that they were able to force out the Isis ultimate, speaking of which, Panitum trying to cash onto the Susano, gonna miss with that Sacred Monkey, and that's gonna be all the opening that Lutero needs to get out of that one.
Did at least get that beads cooldown from him, though, so Fear No Evil will certainly be back up before Purification, so as long as he can catch Laterra out, he can certainly make that happen. Tier 1 tower again did fall over there in the left lane after that pressure. Panitum this time finds Kale. I thought he was going to go look for Laterra, but instead finds the Isis player in mid lane and shuts that down. One more kill for Panitum. 3-1-1. He's been so strong for Waiso Serial, all set.
And going back to what we were just talking about before, that little bit of aggression, Dragonis have just been so paranoid of Waiso Serial. I mean, dropping an Isis ultimate, I'd understand if Panitum had actually hit that Sacred Monkey, gotten the bounces off, and teleported in, sure, go for it. But to drop it before any sort of damage has even been applied is rather questionable. It's kind of concerning, actually, to see Dragonis just so afraid of fighting against Waiso Serial.
That's what it feels like right now. They're giving Waiso Serial too much respect, and slowly their fear is gonna become the reality. They're gonna give Waiso Serial so much respect that they're gonna have to start giving them respect because of how far ahead they're gonna be if they continue to strip away the rest of the map here as Hitorino groups up with Captain Max here in mid. Look at, and Netroid's free to rotate as well with that tier 1 tower down. He's coming over to this fight as well.
And the entirety of Dragon is typically winning matchups individually. Like the laning phase should have gone more in Dragona's favor than what it actually ended up being.
Engaging on the Shinto. Good damage coming out between Sanugal and Penitom. Able to get some poke out, but getting controlled once again by Laterra and falling back. In the end, they take away that camp, so that's at least one win. 3-man stun coming out from Hitorino. Perfect place on the stun, but it's actually Dragones who are the ones engaging. Circle of protection a little bit better this time. Doesn't find the kill. Fear no evil is going to be the response. Laterra finds the first one with Penitom. Drops down the jungler. All the while, though, Netrioid's pulling the Gold Fury. Dragones, though, have the oracles on this. They have vision, so they were going to rotate back over if they needed to, but they couldn't continue. Hitorino over the wall, peels for his solo laner, but Forza finally finds Captain Max. This is the fight we needed to see from Dragones off a commit from YSO Serial.
Finally, somebody at Dragones decided to turn the lights on and remind YSO Serial that they're still home. Dragones now gonna start pulling away at this Gold Fury, although their members are relatively low. This is a very dangerous pool.
Netrioid goes in aggressive. He knows that he has the airstrike to try and go in for the low health Forza in the backline. Couldn't find it. Instead, gonna have put damage put back into him. Hitorino's here to help control a little bit as well. Dragones no longer can commit to the Gold Fury, and YSO Serial force him off.
But that's still a win for YSO Serial because an excellent objective opportunity is now for nothing, and instead, this is very likely to go in favor of YSO Serial.
No ultimates available for YSO Serial, but they do avoid the dazzling offensive by carefully resetting the objective. Dragones, or rather Shinto, had no way to contest it. Penitom went into aggressive and had the Fear No Evil available, finds Laterra before he can get away. Now that's one more kill for them, 5v4 in their favor. A little bit low is Penitom. You're going to have to tell him, though, as he does back out of the rest of the team fight. Sanugal jumps back in, but Dragones unwilling to turn back around.
Sanugal just does not care right now.
Absolutely
there
not.
is no one from Dragones that really wants to waste their time trying to burst down this tanky Kakolin. He can pretty much do whatever he wants right now. I think that's been made clear that Dragones really want nothing to do with him, and instead, they're just going to opt to fall back after giving up the Gold Fury. Not by choice, though. That was mostly just Dragones needing to back, but getting a little bit too ahead of themselves and trying to seize the objective immediately after, not recognizing how short these early game spawn timers really are.
And it felt like initially a bad engagement, at least to me, from Netrioid, as Captain Max gets stunned. Actually, 2 members around him, but he has the Geb Shield to keep himself alive. He's happy to do it, though. He's creating space for this Pyromancer. Laterra's here, and the ultimate's just a little bit too late. Couldn't get in there to contest the objective. Goes the way of YSO Serial.
That's a lot spent, though, out of Susano. Getting the Blink and the Susano ultimate.
Yeah.
Again, a team-fighting relic and a team-fighting ult. One more opportunity for YSO Serial when they next return to maybe try and fight in this mid lane. Grouping now out of Dragones. They're going to try and dive and siege this T1 tower.
He has the Fear No Evil, and there it is. Comes out. Does get immediately controlled, though, so he can't follow it up. But deleted is wrong you underneath the Tier 1 tower. They're going to trade Captain Max out, so support for support falls. But Sanugal continuing in. We've already said he's feeling very brave. Even uses the heat there to try and get those pulses out to find the kill. Thorns comes out as well, so Kayle can't even return any damage. He's under a Tier 1 tower, still at half health, and wants to keep chasing Kayle through the suns. Has no backup, though. Sanugal might have committed a little too much here as Shinto finds him.
I was going to be really disappointed if nobody killed the Kakolin there, but at last, Sanugal's going to find his first death of the match, just going a little bit too deep for that Isis. At least he forced everything away from Kayle, though, before dying.
He did force out all those relics again, so I agree. That is some degree of a trade. He knows he can trust Hitorino and Penitom both to try and follow that up later on, if not himself once he respawns. So Kayle going to have to make sure playing particularly safe from here on. 8-7, though, again, are the kills here. The kill count's been evened up, but not the gold and experience. About 4,000 here in favor of YSO Serial. Just about 6,000 experience in their favor, too. So YSO Serial certainly still have the lead right now. And this Tier 1 tower siege from Dragones, it's tough when you're up against that strong clear from the Agni.
Again, look at the backside, though. We got Laterra going in onto the Agni. Gonna get stunned out by Hitorino, though. And the rest of Dragones still looking towards sieging this T1 in mid. Gonna be a dive-in from Netrioid. He's all by himself.
Once again, he dives in aggressively. Same thing he did around the Gold Fury pit. It isn't up to force Forza back, and he trusted the airstrike to get him out of there. Now Sanugal establishing the front line for them, but Netrioid is unafraid of this Dragones roster.
He's really living life on the edge right now. Just sometimes you gotta dash into 4 people from the enemy team, but if you're gonna live, you're gonna live, and there's no punish off of that play. So probably a win for Waiso Serial. Jing Wei gonna back to base, happily heal all that damage up, and now this tower siege in mid lane that Dragones have been trying to force time and time again might actually be Waiso Serial's first to take.
Did have to use the beads, did Netroid, but every relic except Thorns is down for Dragones, whereas the carries for Waiso Serial still have a little bit of safety to their name here in this team fight in the form of Aegis on Retroid, and Hitorino still has everything, so they can continue to aggress a little bit further. Sanungal continuing to be that front line for them. He's unafraid to box up against Shinto. We've seen him happily doing it up against 4 all game long. The Tier 1 tower, though, they did not feel comfortable going for that one. But with 5 members here in mid, I got to imagine they're going to give this another try. Blink comes out. Fear no evil onto Kale, who has no way to get out of it. Gets knocked up. Not quite enough damage to actually finish that one off. Kale still escaped for now. Panatom finally ends up finding that one. The Sundra dropped from Forza as well, but didn't get nearly the impact they wanted. Tier 2 tower under siege. Wrong U is also under siege, as is Panitom. Has to jump away from Shinto, but not in time. Shinto finds that one as the Tier 1 tower crumbles to the ground. He gets controlled a little bit by Captain Max, but Waiso Serial back up after trading 1 for 1.
And Netroid again, though, on the front end of that T1 tower. Technically, Dragona's backside of the T1 tower. Forza might have been a little bit out of position, but it's going to be Shinto instead, who's getting controlled now. Forza going to find the stun onto Hitorino, and huge win. That's the Purification Beads out of the Agni.
Oh, the Purification Beads come out. I don't know if they communicated that the Geb Shield was available. That one could have been cleansed there by Captain Max. The shield was there on time. The bead just came out a little bit sooner.
I don't think that's a lack of trust between Hitorino and Captain Max. I think that's just reflexes.
Sure.
Pure reflexes from playing a lot of Smite and not always trusting those Geb shields to be there. Not necessarily from your competitive teammates, but maybe just a couple of unusual experiences. But attention's going to be onto this Gold Fury yet again. Free ward vision for Waiso Serial as Hitorino gets pulled in and controlled by Latero.
And he doesn't have those beads available. Does have the Geb Shield, though, coming out from his support. Isis Spirit Ball doesn't hit over the wall, and instead it's you-know-who, Sanungal, continuing to be the front line for this Waiso Serial roster. He is just staring down the members of Dragones. He's actually a little bit behind Shinto at this point, but no one tell him as he continues to push in a little bit further forward. Gold Fury has been pulled by Dragones. I don't know how fully they want to commit onto this. They do have the Circle of Protection from Kale here, though.
It's just been a non-stop brawl for the past 5 minutes or so between these two teams. Dragones still staying hard onto this Gold Fury. Forza gonna drop the ultimate. They're looking for the heavy invest. Dragones are gonna be able to claim it, but now Netroid going in immediately with the ultimate. They're trying to collapse on top of Dragones.
Now can they survive the team fight? It's gonna be the question. Spirit Ball comes out, stuns Sanungal and Netroid. Big stun for them. But Cataclysm comes down to lock down Shinto, as well as the stuns from Hitorino. They find the solo laner and the Tier 2 tower. That's already enough to all but even up the Gold Fury that they just lost between that kill and the tower. And I don't think that's all they're looking for. Panitom has a wave here in middle lane, so they can keep pushing, but came too far forward here, did wrong you. He's able to avoid the necessary damage to get them out, but they do find Forza. The Hunter falls, and they regroup around the Phoenix.
No Ice's ultimate to try and heal him in this one. There isn't a creep wave available, though, for Waiso Serial. They're going to need to back off from this left-hand Phoenix. Can't fully commit just yet, but they're still able to claim the life of the Hu Yi after dropping both of his ultimates or actives yet again. Forza kind of just having flashbacks to game number 1. He just can't escape.
Going in aggressively here is Latero to try and stop the damage onto his Tier 2 tower. He does have Wrong You here in support to put out the stun, but it's Latero who gets controlled by the Fear No Evil on the left-hand side. That ultimate is constantly available for Panitom as he continues to backstab with Latero on the left-hand side. Very low as Netroid for the first time. We see him running away from a team fight, not diving further in. Control coming out here from Wrong You with the root, so they're going to lock down Sanungal for the moment. And they still have 4 members here actually pulling it back in and looking for more damage. I think they might actually finally have him dead to rights here. Lands the 4-man stun, jumps away, dodges the rest of the damage, forces them to commit very heavily for the fight. Actually, still alive and looking to turn back in for more fighting. Sanungal called it too early, makes it out.
They used everything and they still could not kill this Kakulin. Sanungal gonna walk all the way from the T2 tower straight down to his T1 with no interference, it seems, because no one could kill him from Dragones through all of that.
Sunbreaker drop down on top of the Pyromancer just to stop them from going for it. No real chance for that to help confirm the objective. Was still very, very healthy at that point. But Sanungal, man, what a problem for Dragones. They cannot deal with this Kakulin, and they can't seem to find a way to bring him down. They've done it once so far this game. and that feels like a distant memory for the boys of Dragonis as he goes in once again aggressively. We heard the Pyromancer drop down, so YSO Serial must have been able to secure that one for themselves. Netrioid turning his attention back towards the Fire Giant. That's twice now I've seen him dash away from the enemy team, so it looks like he does realize that it can be used in that direction. Fear No Evil forces Forza back under the tier 2 tower. Cataclysm hits 2 members, and coming right back in aggressively is Hitorino with all the damage they could ever need. They still haven't managed to find Rongyu just yet as he drops another bomb down on top of him. But who's at the front again? It's Sanugal being the front line they need.
And again, he's going to get help this time, though, from Benitham, as Benitham goes pretty deep there. Kale's going to drop the Isis ultimate, but it just doesn't matter. Complete control of the map. YSO Serial making quick work of Shinto shortly after, and the right-hand Phoenix going to be their next target. Creep Wave is starting to pour in, so they're also going to get the help from that. And in a 3v5, there's just nothing that Dragonis can do but watch as their Phoenix falls.
Once again, YSO Serial feel like they've got a Hell and a Sylvanas on their team, even when they don't. This YSO Serial roster is so unkillable for the boys of Dragonis. They can't touch Sanugal, they can't touch Hitorino. This composition with this Geb here with them and those aura items all built up are a little bit too tanky. In fact, they feel comfortable going for the Fire Giant. Now we're seeing Netrioid dive back in aggressively one more time, and he's looking for La Terror over on the right-hand side, and they're trying to duke it out while Sanugal keeps Rongyu and Forza busy on the left-hand side. Netrioid finally finds it. La Terror falls. 2 members currently dead, but Shinto's right back up.
That was actually great pathing out of Netrioid as well, kind of just recognizing that his team was going to be able to cut off Latera from the underside of the Fire Giant pit, so immediately he shoves upwards, expecting to encounter the Susano at that top-hand corner, and with a little bit of backup from Benitham, there's just nowhere left for Latera to run.
Taco, I'm pretty sure they've been fighting for 10 minutes now.
It hasn't stopped.
They've just been fighting right now, and this YSO Serial roster feels almost untouchable for Dragonis. I mean, they just cannot get enough damage onto one target to finish him off.
It's just that the second that Dragonis chooses to go in, they're usually not able to find the last hits for the kill secures, and then the entirety of YSO Serial just comes in, gets picks. Dragonis tries to respond and defend the objective, ends up dying again. It's just a never-ending cycle, it feels, of Dragonis just dying to YSO Serial.
Well, look at the player damage charge. It's a 4-headed monster from YSO Serial. Normally, there's at least 2 gods that you don't have to worry about them doing that much damage, but I mean, everyone on this YSO Serial roster is shredding Dragonis right now. They can't afford to stick around in these team fights and stand in all that damage coming out from Hitorino, coming out from Netrioid, coming out from Panatom as well, as been controlling the fights well, but this Fear No Evil, they haven't even looked towards this Fire Giant yet. They want this fight here in the mid lane. Fear No Evil comes out, Cataclysm as well. They control Shinto perfectly, and Sanugal gets that one. Tier 2 tower mid is going to be the next call for them. Only 3 members here to try and defend, and Panatom's going in aggressively for more.
Suns are going to come out from Forza, but there's not much else he can do as Rongyu tries to run away from Sanugal, and Sanugal more than happy to tank up this mid-hand Phoenix. He's been taking up damage all game long. Hitorino gonna get the solo kill onto Latera on the backside. Everyone else still collapsing underneath his mid-hand Phoenix.
Rongyu trying to zone everyone out, but that might have been the wrong move. He ends up falling down to Netrioid as they get their 3rd kill of this prolonged battle. Tier 2 falls in mid. Right side Phoenix has already been brought down, do not forget, as they now siege mid Phoenix. Going in once again aggressively as Hitorino finds the Sun and the Kale, finds the Rain Fire over the top onto Kale, just trying to back up with that first abilities, Kale, but he can't do it. Actually, do YSO Serial have a chance to end here? Taco, I think that they might have enough damage down to half health. Forza deleted by Hitorino. Kale doesn't have the ultimate available, does find the kill into Sanugal, finally bring him down. Only going to be a moral victory, though, as YSO Serial take the set 2-0. They're going to Masters.
Who needs a Fire Giant when you can just end the game anyway? Very well played there at the end from YSO Serial. YSO Serial, again, in both games, just had really dominant and clean performances.
They really did look strong in both games. You're absolutely right. But here in Game 2, Taco, as we do take a look at these brackets and see the path that YSO Serial took to make it this far, Dragonis were a little bit too cautious, I feel like. Gave a little bit too much respect to YSO Serial there in Game 2.
I can always understand never wanting to underestimate your opponents, but right. Dragonis, they had the advantages most of the time during those laning phase periods, and they just were not willing to take them. They were so incredibly scared of entering a team fight, or even not even necessarily full-on team fights, just 2v3 or 2v2s, 3v3s. They clearly did not feel comfortable with either of their drafts in both games to really try and find any of those punishing moments.
And in the end, it ended up punishing them in both games. Game 1, that sustained composition from YSO Serial ended up being too strong for them in the late game. And in Game 2, they could not kill anybody, it felt like, on that YSO Serial roster. But that is going to do it for LatAm North. Again, YSO Serial, the ones that are able to come out victorious, and we should be seeing more of them later. It's going to be a quick break, though. We still have LatAm South for you also. Make sure you stick around. Welcome back to the SMITE Global Series. This time, we're in LATAM South. We're going to be looking at Nocturnes going up against Quad Gaming. Again, it's Finch and Taco here with you. And you should recognize this Nocturnes roster. I think you just saw him a couple months ago at HR Rex.
And it has been a little bit since HR Rex, so there's bound to be a couple of changes considering that Season 5 got a pretty massive revamp. But taking a look at the pathing that they had to take to get here, Nocturnes Gaming encountering a little bit of difficulties in the semis, but able to come out on top, and that's why they're here with us in the finals.
Yeah, Quad Gaming did not have as much trouble against Sinisters. Looks like they were able to make it through 2-0 without any problems, but hey, that could potentially be good for Nocturnes. They've already met a little bit of adversity here in this tournament, overcome it. Now they're ready to move into the finals, and again, the winner here is the one's going to be able to come join us at LAN, so we want to see them make it through this match, and already ready for picks and bans. These two teams are ready to do it, Taco.
And we can expect to see some of the similar banning pressure outs, but instead, Sobek going to be one of the first gods eliminated here. Seems as though Guardians are the apparent theme for picks and bans at the start here, as Quad responds with a quick Athena ban away too.
Nemesis going to be banned as well. Not too surprised to see that one to go along with those two Guardians. So strong in the jungle right now as Nemesis, up against the squishies and against the tanks as well. So trying to eliminate some of that early pressure.
I almost want to ask what year it is, seeing Geb, Sobek, and Athena as the first choice bans. And a Terra first pick at that. Nocturnes really know exactly what they want to go for. And I like this because Terra has that flexible pick option where she could be headed for solo, she could be the Guardian, but either way, provide some strong frontline opportunities.
Yeah, we've seen that Terra support or Terra solo, as you said, so either one of those are certainly going to be on the table. Kukulkan and Camazotz selected, so Quad also have a bit of flexibility to their roster because Camazotz could be jungle solo, Kukulkan has some solo and some support applications that we've seen as well, so not 100% sure where their roster's going just yet.
I like the dive potential that's already being introduced, though, to Quad. When you have a Kukulkan and a Camazotz, you're kind of encouraging the enemy team to spread out more often. And when you're a composition like what Nocturnes is trying to run, it seems as though they want to stay more grouped. Being as grouped as possible is going to make things ideal for having follow-up damage on that dodgy ultimate, but I'm really interested to see how Quad chooses to utilize this Camazotz and whether or not they're going to prioritize those diving opportunities.
I'm a little surprised here, even with the Osiris Terra dodgy selection, still the Serket ban is coming out from Quad, so they're expecting that there's still some availability here for that Serket to fit into that roster, and it's a strong god, so hey, fit it in there if you can, and they want to make sure they take it away, along with that Thok ban as well.
And Thoth, no real surprises seeing him getting banned away, not wanting to deal with any of the control that he can provide due to this range and burst potential. And so same thing can be said for Serket as well. Provides a lot of control and heavy mobility, really difficult to handle at times. But again, Nocturnes, they don't like dealing with Guardians.
No. Even more Guardian focus. They take Sylvanas and Ardio off the board, but you can't ban enough of them because Cerberus is still available in Quad. Happy to select this one for themselves. We know just how powerful this Cerberus can be with that Stygian Torment, with the stun, with the damage that he can provide. So now that'll be going for Quad.
And Agni going to be the next god of choice for Nocturnes as they finish off their draft with the Hachiman. So again, still introducing a whole lot of crowd control. I think I really like the AoE focus that Nocturnes draft is really bringing to the table here. I love the thought process behind a Daji being able to burn away some of those early actives and then immediately followed up against having to deal with the Agni Hachiman burst damage.
It does look like Control is what they want because it looks like no soul was picked or banned here. They really are not valuing her either in the mid or the hunter role, either two of these teams, so instead preferring Zion 6 to be on that Hachiman pick, and then they did round their draft out, did Quad with that new Wa pick, so that's going to be going into the mid lane for them.
And a relatively safe start, actually, out of Nocturne's dual lane. Noito Lover and Zion going to take away the purple buff first and foremost, recognizing that they weren't going to have the out clear against the Kukulkan Uller. They decided to just take their buff instead, as they're not going to miss out too much on the wave. Pico away is trying to rotate as well towards that red buff, but Sabando is already level 2, and that's going to deter any possible red buff invades.
That could deter if they want to try and go for that red buff invade. Already, though, the pressure going the way of Quad Gaming there in the mid lane. Not too big of a surprise there with Mate's been able to have that Camazotz pick, so much extra damage he's able to provide. They come right over to those Harpies and take them for themselves. Meanwhile, Nocturne's going to take a look at the purple buff between Zion 6 and Noi2 Lover over here. Again, some of the mainstays from this Nocturne's roster that you all will recognize. Continuing to keep their synergy going here in the duo lane, but already the blink has come out from Pikoways here. He's going in heavily right now on the Paolo, who has to back up. Actually goes back in, trying to look to see if he can turn that fight around. Ends up giving his own life away, but at least makes it 1-for-1.
That's a beautiful play there out of Pikoways. The question is, can he get away with it entirely? Sabando still looking to go just a little bit deeper into that T1 tower. Gonna take a tower shot for it, but not able to connect with that second ability onto Pikoways. And Pico, great choice making there, because if he doesn't go for the first blood, he loses it to the Camazotz. And right now, that would not have been worth it for Nocturne's Gaming, considering that they were the initial aggressors. They need that first blood.
And it is going to be now the 2 junglers for each squad that's going to come away with that first blood. Going to accelerate their farm a little bit so they can start reaching those all-important ultimates and come out even stronger. Daji doesn't as much need it, already has the leap, already has so much damage and chase potential just in those first 3 abilities that she has, but once she gets that Paolo, it becomes a whole new story. Beads are going to be forced out constantly, as well as some of those CC immune ultimates from the rest of Quad Gaming in response to the control Pikoways has. But going in aggressively as Zion 6 forces the leap out.
That's just one of the benefits that Hachiman has, because that passive doesn't use as much mana, and Ox has been playing incredibly aggressive on this Ullr, kind of just dropping his kit whenever it's available for those poke opportunities against Noito and Zion, but since they weren't able to find a kill in the duo lane, now the laning pressure is going to go back in favor of Nocturnes, and they're going to have the leisure to not have to worry about their buffs being potentially invaded. That's already just such a huge win. The whole purpose of a Kakolin support is really to establish lane pressure early on, and Delon had a slight advantage being able to solo his purple buff, but after that, wasn't really able to find anything.
Yeah, it didn't quite end up working for them out in the duo lane for Quad Gaming. Again, that pressure going to be now going the way of Nocturnes, able to come back, secure their own purple buff, and then return over to the duo lane. Looks like both our hunters this time, though, are going to be looking at getting that Transcendence online for both the Hachiman and the Ullr. No surprise with the Ullr. Hachiman benefited from that very well as well with the Mounted Archery and the Heavenly Banner. So much extra damage on those abilities in the team fights.
With Ox having had to back so soon, though, he probably didn't have the gold available to upgrade that Transcendence, which is why we see him building into the boots. But normally when that occurs and you buy the T1 boots, you typically commit to finishing off those boots, and Ox is going to have to commit to running away from this engagement as Nocturne's Gaming once again gets the advantage in the duo lane.
Daylon is close, though, to getting that Rage transformation off, which might be an opportunity for them to recommit, but perfectly timed here is Pikoways coming in on the Daji, ready to chase him down. She has the Paolo available as well. She wants to go up into it. Instead, looking for the jump. Let's try and save it as long as she can, and recognizing that there's no chance for him to get out of there. Daylon just kind of gives it up. Zion 6 is the one that gets credit for that kill. Good rotation from the jungler.
Daylon used everything trying to run away there, but even the sprint wasn't enough to put enough space between himself and Pikoways, and Pico probably just ecstatic that he was able to get another kill, further preventing the whole process, the thought process here of Kakolin getting his hunter ahead now, as instead it's going to be Daylon sitting at level 4, 5 minutes into the match.
Yeah, it wasn't even just that he got that kill, but it was right when that Rage transformation comes out, which is when the Kakolin support really does what makes it such a strong pick. You know, now it gets that second set of abilities. The Health Shield comes out as well, and he could start to really bully the lane a little bit for a little while. But instead, that aggression gets heavily punished by Pikoways. They get that kill. Still a little bit behind, though, Sabando mates over there in the jungle for the Camazotz, but has that 1-on-1 slash line to help him out.
Pico's pathing was just kind of lucky. If you're looking at it, because he didn't rotate from the mid lane. He came from the bottom side of duo.
He started from the bottom?
From the bottom, yeah. So he didn't run over any wards. And that's why we saw so much aggression out of Daylon. He wasn't expecting anybody to be there, because they have a ward at the choke point on the top hand side of duo for Quad, and they also have one in that mid lane choke point, which would usually indicate whether or not a jungler is going to be rotating over. So just no real insight as to where a Pico might actually be, and it's the reason why it cost him his life.
Again, another spill there for Daylon, or rather his first one of the game that he took in that last fight. Over here in the solo lane, though, the Cerberus-Osiris matchup, probably going to be relatively safe between these two. We saw them both being able to secure their own blue buffs. Beltway, of course, is a bit of a veteran over here in this region. Actually, Pikoways has a lot of damage he's been able to put in a... Yeah, Daylon, yeah. This powwow should do it if he can just land one of the chains. Finally gets it with the last one. That's enough for him to get that kill. Forced up into the Bat Out of Hell ultimate as well with Sabando. He drops right back down into the mounted archery. It wasn't quite enough damage, but he finds it with that extended shot. Zion 6th gets his second kill of the game in mid lane.
Never safe running away from a Hachiman, whether it's that ultimate or the eagle eye on the one, that extended range auto attack. Gonna end up spelling disaster for Sabando, and Camazotz without an ultimate, usually pretty vulnerable. You'd think that he'd be safe all the way behind his T1 tower, but again, just a great rotation out of Zion, making sure that he doesn't get away.
Learning you're never truly out of the range of a Hachiman, I suppose there, Taco. Even when you're under your own tier 1, that mounted archery paired up with his extended arrow range just was too much for Sabando to be able to take. Already had the ultimate forced out in the jungle. Remember, faced too much pressure in the jungle first. Came crashing back down. They actually controlled Pikoways there for a moment on that Danji, so he wasn't the one that was able to follow it up, but Zion 6 was waiting in the wings. That was all they needed. Now they're up 4-1 in the kill department and already have a gold lead building up for themselves as well at about 1,500 and experience at 2,000.
I also really like what Zion is choosing to do here, recognizing that Ox was opting for finishing boots first and foremost. He actually decided to match it. That way he can have the same sort of mobility in case he's choosing to play more aggressively in the dual lane. Now Zion isn't going to get outran entirely by the Uller since he'll have boots available himself.
Those boots are going to help out for Ox a little bit, but Zion 6, as you said, trying to match up a little bit to make sure that he doesn't get too outclassed in the dual lane. Bit of a grouping here in mid from Nocturne's gaming. They just want to split that farm there between those mid Harpies and head back towards the middle lane. Hydras, though, going to be the choice here from Pikoways. We don't always see the Hydras get picked up this early anymore. A lot of the times we see like Heartseekers, Crushers get valued. Not even going to have a chance to talk about it, though, as they go in aggressive here on the Paolo. He's going to go right up into the air with that Fire Shards. It does get away from damage, but not going to get away from the chains. Is eventually able to avoid that one, though, by putting down the Purification Bead, so it won't get pulled back in. And the ultimate committed from Daylon is going to force back the rest of Nocturne.
That was just a great choice there, but instead, Sabando still going in a little bit too aggressive now, investing the Camazotz ultimate, but not willing to dive the T1 tower just yet. Huge win there for Nocturnes in the mid lane, that they weren't further punished for staying just a little bit too long.
Yeah, that's how I would describe it. I think Sabando probably stayed just a little bit too long there in the mid lane and has that ultimate forced out. He's actually still fighting just a little bit. Pushed forward a little bit into the order side jungle there. He did, but he backed up. No real trouble came from that one. But again, Pikoways, man, on this dodgy pick has been excellent for Nocturne so far.
Going back to what you were saying about that early pick of the Hydras, I think the main reason why we're seeing Pico put a heavy priority into this item is because not only do you get the 10% cooldown reduction, but you also get that 40% additional damage off of your next basic attack, which is huge for Daji because her first ability, all about the auto attack. You land that first ability and you opt for early cooldown reduction, you're going to have that available all the time, and it's such a massive poke possibility that Pico is clearly making the right choice, I think, by choosing to benefit even further.
Yeah, this is one of those ones we see on some of these assassins that have that in-hand steroid, so that then they can come in and get that big proc off on the next big auto attack. So Pico is going to be relying on that. And as you said, the only thing he's going to be missing is a little bit of that early pen, maybe, because he is still getting the cooldown that he gets. So likely we'll see something along the lines of Crusher's Brawler to follow this up shortly, so that he can continue to try and shred through quad gaming. But early on, he won't be missing that pin too much with all that extra power.
Early on, there's usually not enough defensive items for the enemy team for you to really miss out on those early pin opportunities. And Crusher could be a strong acquisition. However, right now, it's just going to be all focused onto Sabando as he gets poked out pretty heavily here. Ult for ult, though, as Camazotz and Daji kind of get the traits.
Did get the pull on a Daylon. He gets pulled right back in to the damage from Agni. Boulder able to take that one down, no problem, and get Daylon yet another early spill. 0-3-0 for this Kukulkan support.
Daylon's not having a good time with this Kukulkan. Without Purification Beads and without his ultimate to bail him out, he's really just a free target for Nocturnes.
Also, that new wall was a free target for Nocturnes. As Noity Lover goes in, aggressive in the mid lane and finds him. Actually looking to go a little bit more aggressive in the mid lane, continuing to pressure this tier 1 tower. even with Sabando right there, doesn't quite have the ultimate available for him, but still has plenty of burst. Not gonna be enough to scare Nocturnes though, as they turn their attention towards this Pyromancer. No one from quads around. They're gonna take that one for free.
Love it. Immediately get the pick and all eyes straight towards an objective. Pyromancer gonna be taken.
He might get caught out
Nocturnes.
here. No ultimate available for Sabando either. He does have beads, so if he gets controlled, he can at least use that to try and get away. It does enough to beads away the slow, but couldn't go up into the air, and Zion 6 finds that kill. Just poked his nose too far into that red buff and paid for it with his life.
I can't blame the man. Sometimes you just gotta go for the enemy's buffs. Red looks so juicy when no one's around you. It's not until after you see the 3-man collapse that you start to get a little bit concerned, and in Sabando's case, he's not going to be able to make it out. Proper punish, though, from Nocturnes for that greed.
I gotta think he heard the Pyromancer go down and thought, maybe they're backing, I have a chance to try and strip away some of this jungle, but instead, you saw the pings come out almost immediately from Nocturnes. I think they wanted to go confirm that buff first. They had an idea he was down there. I think that it's warded is why they were able to see him take that pathing, and instead they come over and punish him heavily for it. Sabando 1, 2, and 0, and his beads won't be available for another 100+ seconds either.
He had the right idea. I think when you hear an objective all across the map, but hold that thought, it's going to be Daylon trying to find Agni in the mid lane, but not going to be able to get any CC off as a great stun out of Ader is going to prevent the Column from doing anything further.
Not going to be able to find that one in the mid lane. So they'll back up. Yet again, though, it is Nocturnes Gaming's the ones who are playing as the aggressors, using their lead. They're trying to force Quad Gaming to respond. Doesn't quite find the stun. And then mid lane, so they'll back up one more time as Sabando is happily not under pressure for once in his life so far in this game. 7-1 are the kills, though. We're 13 minutes in here, and again, Nocturnes have established themselves a strong lead. Zion 6, man, has been able to rotate into these team fights and help out, whereas Ox really hasn't. He's been kind of relegated over here to the duo lane, and Zion 6 is starting to build himself a bit of a lead for him.
Decent chunk of health that Noito is able to take away from Sabando there in the mid, and forcing Sabando to jump back into the safety of his T1 tower. It's been really difficult, I think, for Sabando to try and challenge Pico ways as well for the little bit of mid-Harpy farm.
Ox is very low, not gonna be able to find the bomb, but finds the stun. Adair takes that one down. Ox is gonna have to sit out for a little while longer, about another 30 seconds, but the fight's gonna keep raging on even without him, as Quad Gaming looked like they wanted to try and chase down Terra, but could not, and instead back off.
And Zion 6 actually maybe opting for some of those NA double stacking builds that we've been seeing from a lot of these hunters as of late. And Adair, meanwhile, going to focus on trying to siege this T1 tower in mid with the help of Noito. They're going to make sure to take this one down, and that's going to open up a possible Gold Fury pull, and right away, Pico and Zion just immediately trying to siege this Gold Fury.
Sabando's here, and he has everything this time. Ultimate beads, everything available, but it's just not going to be in time. They are too much damage from the Agni, so they're able to confirm that. Fire Shards, though, does bring Zion 6 very low, so he can go up into the air. Can Sabando and start looking for the bat of the hell damage. Aegis kept him alive, so he'll be able to go for the retreat. Now going in just a little bit too far is Daylon yet again. Rage Transformation, the Health Shield keeps him alive for a second, but only a second. Pico Ways gets the last hit.
No chance of escape, just some beautiful peel all around from Nocturnes Gaming, and particularly Noito Lover there, just keeping his carry alive, refusing to let Zion be left out to dry. And with that teamwork, Nocturnes not only going to take the Gold Fury, but also claim the life of Daylon. And man, this is quickly starting to turn into a runaway freight train for Nocturnes, and Quad just doesn't really seem to have the answers.
What kind of runaway train?
A freight train.
Oh, okay, okay. I thought you said like a frag train. I was like, I mean, they're killing, but I mean, come on. All right, yeah. It is a bit of a runaway train here for Nocturnes game. I got to agree with you there, Taco. About a 7K gold lead, maybe about 6.5 or so. That's going to be in their favor. Even the duo lane now starting to feel some of this pressure from the rest of the map as Zion 6 can kind of just walk over, be a part of some kills, and come back without too much pressure. Jump forced out from Ox, who hasn't even gotten a chance to really be in the game just yet. When you're in the duo lane over there kind of hanging by yourself, and you're seeing that this is what's happening on the rest of the map, it's got to feel rough. Hasn't really had much of a chance to impact it.
And Pico is just surrounding this duo lane
Daylon.
side. Daylon, he
Not
knows
again.
he's there, but there's nothing else he can do about it. Just going to absorb all this dodgy damage,
Not like
and
this.
that's all it takes.
That is all it takes. He can actually continue with the aggression with that Terra's Blessing movement speed helped out a lot. No axe stun here because I'm going up into the Palau. Avoids it, finds a double kill for himself by landing the chains. Peekaways is too much. Adair might be too much as well. Sabando able to get away. No cooldowns available for Adair is what I have to imagine as Sabando able to escape into the jungle.
Sabando's still not out just yet. With Peekaways taking away all of that dual lane farm, I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see him start rotating, looking for Sabando on the backside, but...
Is it tier 2?
He's proxying and they're sieging the T2 at the same exact time. Nocturne's Gaming just has full control of this map right now.
Yeah, they do. They are not afraid of being punished right now. Daylon's rotating over, but I think Nocturne's might be saying, hey, another kill is rotating over rather than worrying about the presence of the enemy support at this point. They take that tier 2 tower, add even more gold globally to the team, push up to a 10K gold lead, 9,300, so right about 10K in their favor. And they have all the pressure on the dual lane side of the map. Now they're coming over to the Pyromancer. Azul has got to be able to hear this is happening, so he's going to jump over and try and contest it. But can he out-confirm Adair?
Not sure that this is one that Azul wants to jump into, but I like the respect out of Nocturne's game, recognizing that Cerberus, level 16, can not necessarily have enough damage to kill either the Agni or the Osiris, but it's still dangerous enough to not really want to mess with it.
The two side lanes for Quad Gaming have not gotten to do much here just yet this game. Azul over here in the Cerberus is not too far behind Beltway. Just a little bit of the global gold, I think, that sort of helped out between the towers, between the objectives, where he's been able to build a lead, because neither one have really rotated over to the team fights very much. Similar story can be said for Ox. He takes all those arrows to the face. Turns around, lands a nice axe stun for himself, so Zion6 going to be a little bit careful. Sabando's over here in the jungle too, so can't afford to push up too far or might get punished.
Azul's kind of just on his own island right now, speaking of which. Sabando wants to gank Zion6, but Zion just playing this one relatively safe, not exactly certain.
Now he's on the ward.
Surprised that there isn't a blink in from Sabando there. I think he could have looked for the blink.
Yeah, if he had blinked, I think he could have caught him off guard. He stepped a little bit too far forward into that defensive ward that Zion6 had down, sniffing out that type of gank was going to happen. Red buff stripped away now by Nocturne's Gaming, and they start pushing the miniways up in mid as well. Remember, they weren't able to confirm that Pyromancer, so that's one more neutral objective that's still available over here in the solo jungle side of the map. If they want one that's a little bit easier than the Fire Giant. Immediate Aegis comes out, though, from Adair, and bad out of hell to follow it up. It just wasn't enough damage, though. He's able to keep walking away. Fire Charge comes down, too, but just not going to get him low.
I like that combo, though, between the Nuwa and the Kamazatsu. Speaking of which, Flash Azul trying to keep himself alive, popping the Thorns against Peekaways, but it's probably not going to be enough. Azul unable to hold his own here in this 2v1. They are just simply too far ahead on Nocturnes.
And I like Peekaways making sure to use the ultimate to confirm that, because the rotation was coming over from the rest of Quad Gaming. Daylon was here, Sabando was coming up in the back as well, so get yourself up to safety and make sure you get that kill. The sprint's been used. Sabando continued to be hounded here by No2 Lover, but I don't think he pays too much mind. He might now, though, that Zion6 is here. The stun doesn't land, but he's still got all the damage that he needs. Beltway actually gets very low, has to use the Thorns to try and deter them from putting any more damage into him. No2 Lover finds the two-man stun. Mountain Archery immediately comes out just for the damage. Able to keep running away. Sabando, but he turns around to look for more poke from range. Zion6 brought down to half health, but it's Ox! It's Ox who finally rotates in and just gets caught out. He ends up falling to No2 Lover.
Even with the bees, there just wasn't anything else he could have really done there. Sabando gonna be able to jump out of the possible Terra stun, and they're not wasting any time. Nocturne's Gaming is crazy, but it's so crazy it might just work.
I think it is gonna work. No one from Quad Gaming's felt comfortable enough to step in there, probably thinking that after a fairly even fight, no one would take the Fire Giant so we can back. Instead, though, Fire Giant and the Pyromancer have both been stripped away. Nocturne's Gaming enjoying a 12,000 gold lead 20 minutes into this 14,000 experience as well. You said this was some kind of train earlier, and I gotta agree with you, Taco. It's out of control.
Every single time Quad tries to have a promising response, it is immediately slammed back into the ground. Nocturnes is just running rampant on this map right now. Gold Fury gonna fall in their favor one more time, and already it was a pretty devastating gold lead beforehand, but 13,000 gold down at not even the 21-minute mark. This is some unreal pressure from Nocturnes right now.
Yeah, the gold and the experience lead are both still very relevant at this time. No one on Nocturnes is level 20 yet. Only really it's Beltway. And now actually we're getting to see a little bit of what Beltway can do. Flash Azul caught out and taken down. Peekaways gets yet another kill. 6-0-4 for the jungler for Nocturnes Gaming. This Daji pick for him has done what Daji tends to do and kind of controlled the pace of this early game.
There's a reason why Pico is #1 in the world right now for ranked. And this man is just unstoppable against Quad Gaming. And Nocturnes really just doing whatever the hell they want.
They truly are right now, Taco. They truly are on the back of this performance by Picoays. As you just so correctly mentioned, Nocturnes Gaming now pressuring the tier 2 tower over in the solo lane, brought it down to half health, and a little bit maybe of a defense, see if there's anything from range they can put on, but they can't find it. Picoays now in the 1v3, could potentially be in trouble, goes up into the pal out for safety, finds the change, forces the bat out of hell to come out from Sabando, who did not have beads rather available for him. Tier 2 tower did fall in solo, and now they can group for this tier 2 in mid.
2 ults for the price of 1, and Pico still lives to tell the tale. Even in a 3v1 situation, Quad Gaming just does not have the power to try and take out any of the members from Nocturnes, and with all of them being grouped now in the mid lane, Flash Azul gonna do his best to try and hold his own here for his team, but Quad might not be able to defend this mid-hand Phoenix for much longer.
They are grouping up, though, to try and make this Phoenix defense happen. All 5 of Quad Gaming are here, but they're fighting it at such an extensive lead, even without the Fire Giant. Flash Azul brought down to half health courtesy of Terra and the Hachiman, poking him safely from range. Daylon can't feel comfortable trying to go in and be a frontline for them. Only level 14 right now. Not really much of a chance of him establishing a frontline. This is without Beltway, who's pushing up the wave in right so that they can have some pressure over here and a chance to rotate over to this right after getting the Phoenix, if they are indeed able to pull it. Waiting on a wave in mid, though, before they finally try and break the base.
A smart choice to always wait for those minions. Early on, you feel a little bit more of that Phoenix damage just because you normally aren't fully slotted with your items, don't really have the tankiness available just yet. But for Nuito Lover, that's not going to stop him from running around inside of that mid-hand Phoenix, and Azul is just going to get blown up in mid.
Yeah, he does eventually end up falling there to Picoays, gets the ultimate off, and at least forces some response from the rest of Nocturnes Gaming. Daylon goes in to try and get his ultimate off, but it only ends up throwing his life away. The mid-Phoenix falls, and now Nocturne Gamers are looking like they want to try and make the push. They don't go all the way into the Titan room. Instead, they just drop the minions and then come over back towards this wave that, remember, had already been pushed up by Beltway earlier.
If Nocturnes wants to end the game, they maybe could right now. Apollo gonna get bursted by Pico entirely. Not even able to make it back into the fountain. 10 steps away from it.
Turn their attention back towards this right side. Phoenix Nocturnes Gaming continuing to take whatever it is that they want in this game so far. They've looked dominant in this performance. It feels like from minute 1, Taco, for this Nocturnes Gaming roster, they turn their attention back towards this mid wave, want to try and have as many waves pushed up as possible. They don't feel comfortable just yet going forward. Fire Giant has fallen off. The buff itself, the objective will be back up in about 35 seconds. They can go re-siege that. Only the Phoenix in left stands between them and the Titan when they finally do want to go make that final push.
It's crazy to even just go all the way back to the very start of this match where Pico gets that first blood, and it's an even 1-for-1 trade between the junglers. The only real advantage that Pico had over Sabando is that he got 400 gold on top of the first blood, but both the mid laners died at pretty much the exact same time. Neither side really gets the advantage there, and with the junglers both being able to freely farm out their buffs, you would think that this game wouldn't be as out of control as it is right now, but somewhere something went horribly wrong for Quad Gaming. And the thing is, I don't even think they know what it is that happened exactly. I think that Nocturnes kind of just overwhelmed them.
They really did in this game. Their objective control has been so much better. Their team fight has been better as well. Sometimes they say go back to the drawing board, but it feels like a lot of things have gone wrong. So Quad Gaming really gonna have to think hard right now. That's what they're using this time for, to try and decide where it is that they want to regroup in game 2 and turn this one around, because barring a tremendous collapse from Nocturnes Gaming, they should be able to go secure this one now with 2 Phoenixes down, a Fire Giant, only 1 standing, and a bajillion.5 gold lead in their favor. What is it that Quad Gaming can try and change around? Daji's probably a good starting point, though. This god has been so strong lately. Maybe not let this one happen. There was a lot of Guardian focus in that picks and ban phase, Taco, and maybe they can't prioritize those as much.
I think for me, it's the Kakulin support. Daylon was just so vulnerable on Kakulin. You might have CC immunity on that first ultimate, but that's about it. And as soon as that's down, you're just open season. And that's all that Pico did. Just built up a heavy lead from farming this Kakulin.
He was able to build up that lead for himself. Daylon really has not been much of a factor for them just yet, but who has been, though, is Adair on this Agni. Looks like he's in prime position to be a factor one more time as they go for their final push. This left Phoenix is falling. Daylon goes in, does find the two-man knockup, has Thorns ticking, but gets pulled in by the Palau and doesn't even have time to return damage as Pico Ace finally gets him with that bleed damage. All four members of Quad Gaming have to fall back off the Phoenix. Mounted Archery comes in, forces the Aegis out from Ox, but it's not going to be enough. It's actually one more kill that comes out in favor of Noi 2 Lover as they take down Sabando. They don't even need that Phoenix on the left-hand side. They're going right for the Titan room. Half health on the Titan. Quad Game with only 3 members cannot possibly stand up to the pressure, and Nocturnes take game 1.
And Nocturne's not willing to wait around any longer. They just want the first win, and they're going to find it with a very strong performance in match number 1.
Yeah, they looked dominant in that game. A lot of the times we take a look at the end of it and go, well, who was your MVP? Who looked great there? It's kind of hard to pick just one member from this Nocturnes roster who looked excellent. They all played so well.
Honestly, I'd have to throw my money towards Pico. He was just all over the map at every single stage. You would want him to be there and had some excellent gank prioritization set up. It seemed as though he went purely for the Kakulin. He knew that the Kakulin would be the best target to try and focus on early, and it worked out for him pretty well. I can't imagine that Quad are going to let him get that dodge to run it back.
Well, let's take a look at these picks and bans. We got them ready for you for game 2 between Nocturnes and Quad and see what it is that they prioritize. The Kakulin is one opportunity where they can try and make a change. The Daji as well. Already, though, Quad going to be first pick. They're choosing to ban away the Uller and the Habois. These are some high damage, strong laning gods that they want to make sure they're taken off the board.
And Nocturne's going to respond with the Odin Hunbots banaways, and granted, they seem to be a little bit concerned about Quad having too much control in team fights if they get either of those gods. Fear No Evil and that Odin Cage can be very annoying to deal with, but Thoth's going to be the first god of choice for Quad, and I like this selection. I think it can provide that safety that Quad were kind of looking for in game 1, but just unable to find. But Thoth having a great escape and that stun opportunity, maybe going to prevent Pico from diving as freely in the early game.
And it gives them a chance to have a little bit more relevance earlier on in the game, too. That mid-game comes on a little bit faster than it can. I think it was Nuwa that Quad was piloting in that mid lane last time, so this is certainly going to be a bit more relevant sooner for them on this Thoth pick. And Sylvanas Agni, going to be the first two picks, rather, that come out for Nocturnes. We already know how strong Sylvanas can be in lane.
Also, I like that Thoth actually introduces some possible objective contests. Quad had 0 chance in the first game to try and contest with Nuwa, especially behind Nuwa at that. You're just not going to have any wiggle room to work into looking to try and steal anything away. But with Thoth, Final Judgment, huge range, always plenty of opportunity to come back in. Great defensive opportunities as well underneath those Phoenixes in case Nocturnes get a massive lead again. But Nocturnes, they want their front line established first and foremost. Going to be Artio to match up against this Cerberus in the solo, I believe.
Artio is so strong right now. We got to see some of what her control could do earlier on today, and hopefully they can bring that out here. Can Nocturnes? Hachiman is going to be the selection in the dual lane, and no reason not to take that one away because it looked so great for Nocturnes last game. Now it's going to be Quad to try and roll that.
In game 1, it was all about banning away those supports. In game 2, it seems to be Assassins that Nocturnes are concerned about. With Daji and Nemesis being taken off the table, that's going to force a different direction for Quad, although there's still a couple of pretty strong junglers. They could try to run back the Camazotz. I don't think the Camazotz was really an issue in that last game as much as it was just unable to really get off the ground once it fell so far behind. But instead, we're going to see Fenrir, and Fenrir for the first time in a while. Yeah,
we don't see a whole lot of this Fenrir pick, but with that Ragnarok transformation can lift you up, reposition those team fights very well, and kind of just sit you there and let Thoth just spam his abilities and hit you for a while he's holding you in place. The stun, very strong as well. Then going to follow that up with the Sobek, so not going to be seeing that Kakulin support run back. It's either going to be the Sobek or the Cerberus that does it this time.
On the one hand, Fenrir pretty great for attacking an on her because you don't have to worry about the Impale canceling out your Brutalize, but on the other, Fenrir into Artio, usually not a good time for whoever's playing Fenrir.
Yeah, that Artio can really shut down what Fenrir wants to do with the cripple field. A lot of his abilities can't be used while in that. Can't use the Brutalize or the Unchained Could also be a potential problem for him to try and go in on her, since he does have that CC immunity on the Desert Fury, which when he sees the Ragnarok come on, could potentially keep him from getting picked up. Already though, Pikoe is trying to come over and strip away the red buff. I don't think he was able to do it. I think Sabando was able to defend that one. Now looking for the chase. Still had Unchained able to jump in and try and chase him out, but Pikoe is going to be able to run away back towards his team and can no longer continue to chase Ken Sabando.
It was a good attempt there by Pikoe to see whether or not he could catch Quad Gaming off guard, but they're going to make sure that Susano does not get that red buff for free, and great defense out of Sabando, I think, making sure that his team's able to secure that one.
And now rotating back over to mid lane and jumped in a little bit aggressively. Pikoe is very low, able to get out of there though. Safe is Susano early on. So Sabando not going to be able to find that kill, but he is definitely the one in the jungle with the pressure right now. Still level 1 for Pikoe, as he hasn't been able to find much farm just yet. Pull came out though from Noi2 Lover, couldn't follow it up. In fact, they're both going to get hit by the Heavenly Banner now as Quad Gaming can continue to push in. This early game, at least so far, going much better for him than last time.
Early game favoring a little bit more towards Quad this time around. They picked individual lanes that are going to be incredibly strong at clearing, at least during the laning phases. Kind of gives more opportunities for them to play further up in these lanes, as you can tell already from Ox and Daylon. And we haven't really touched on it. I was expecting Cerberus to be in the solo lane, but instead they're throwing Daylon into the Cerberus. And I like this because I think Daylon is a much more aggressive support player. I think that's the reason why we saw him trying to do the Kakolin in the first game. But Cerberus can still kind of have the same sort of aggressive impact, just a little bit more survivability aspects as a Guardian.
Yeah, and I think this gives him the chance to get the most out of Stygian Torment early as well. He'll probably be rotating around a lot more with Daylon on the Cerberus than Azul will be on the Sobek. Remember last game, we were like 16 minutes in and we still hadn't really heard from the solo laners just yet. So this way, they can get the full value out of Daylon on this Cerberus as early as possible this game, as they're already on a lot better footing than we saw 2.5 minutes in last time, where they'd already given up first blood.
Again, though, Sabando on this Fenrir can't really spend much time in the solo lane, so he's probably going to try and ignore that lane entirely, look to really establish his lead off of the mid and dual lane aspects. With that Brutalize, he will be able to follow the Agni, but the careful part, the part that he has to be really careful about, is not eating too much damage while pursuing Agni on the Brutalize from the escape.
And a lot of the times from these Fenrir's, Taco, they're not always trying to pull someone back with that ultimate. As long as he can go in and force a dare to use beads, then that means that Daylon can follow up next time with his ultimate, or Thoth might be able to find a stun in mid lane and set up a kill. Getting the beads on cooldown is really the most important thing here for Sabando. If he can pull you in, great, but if not, he's fine.
Ideally, the responsibility of burning purification beads should not be falling onto Sabando's shoulders. If anything, this Fenrir should be the secondary or third option to resort to for Quad Gaming as far as pulling actives is concerned, because Fenrir's whole purpose is to play fetch. You grab somebody with Ragnarok and then you carry them over to your team, and hopefully your team kills them. Sometimes, you know, they might not have the damage to do so, but in any case, Sabando really just needs to be focused around going on whichever target doesn't have their relics available, and in those circumstances, it should be Quad support Daylon, mostly looking to pull those purification beads. I think with his ultimate, I think Cerberus has some great initiation possibilities, especially if he were to opt for a blink once he hits level 12. But there's also Apollo with the Thoughtstones, like you just mentioned. I think those could also be really strong for helping set up Sabando for getting that ultimate off.
We're seeing him make his trip back towards the mid lane right now. Is this Fenrir pick? Joining along with Apollo there in the mid lane. Right now, though, everyone playing relatively safe, so a bit slower than we saw the start to that last game. As this time, the game is getting off to a little bit of a better start for Quad. We saw them give up quite a bit early to that dodgy pressure that Pikoe was able to get going for himself in the jungle. This time, though, on that Susano pick in the jungle farm, so still something capable of early pressure, but maybe just not quite as safely as the dodgy was able to last time. So we'll see where it is that he tries to go and establish that pressure earlier. He was punished when he tried to invade the red buff. Remember, Sabando was there to meet him for that invade and forced him back, so maybe that early game plan that he had for himself didn't quite pan out.
Just holding that speed buff farm to make sure that his mid laner could get a little bit of that XP, and now Sabando gonna be looping around with the Thoth. Mostly just trying to keep this Agni underneath their T1 tower line, and Adair has not felt comfortable pushing outside of this T1 tower line for good reason. Never really knows where this Fenrir is at, as Pico gonna venture into those left-hand Harpies, try to steal away one of the Harpies, and might have been successful in doing so, and Sabando, more importantly, did not feel comfortable sticking around with Susano showing up.
Sticking around there in the mid lane a little bit. He was waiting around the corner, but couldn't find the initiation that he was looking for. Checking in with these two solo laners, no big surprise to see them building very similarly. We got two Guardians kind of slapping it out over here between Azul and Beltway, so not too much kill potential as long as everyone plays the way that they should here in the mid lane, and or rather in the solo lane, and make sure they don't go too far forward. Going with the Mage's Blessing is going to be Beltway as opposed to the Warrior's Blessing for Azul, so a little bit extra damage on those abilities as opposed to a little bit extra tankiness going Azul.
Seems as though Beltway has a little bit more control over the soul lane right now, although he's running a bit low on mana, as Zion is going to jump in pretty aggressively there onto Ox, but not be able to find anything just yet. Ox is going to quickly disengage, kind of sensing that the Sylvanas was lurking and usually not willing to take up the fight. Anytime a hunter is playing that aggressive, you can kind of expect somebody else to be around.
You talked earlier about how you expected Daylon. Actually, hold that. Might be some trouble here for Ox as he's getting engaged on. Did have to use the mounted archery, able to turn around and get that damage back off into Bakoe, so he's going to be okay and manages to hold on to the purification beads as well off the gank there from the enemy jungle.
Hachiman, though, just so much survivability thanks to that ultimate, and had Ox actually died right there, would have been the first blood, but more importantly, it would have been the start of pressure for Nocturne's Gaming. But this time around, Quad just has much more vision available and focused on that mid-dual lane part of the map. They're really not trying to have a repeat situation of last game.
Daylon wasn't there for that fight, but I was just going to say, a lot of supports, we see them go a little bit more utility with those boots, either cooldown, either with the traveler shoes, trying to get around the map a little bit faster, or even reinforce grease for the protection, but he wants to make sure that he's doing more damage, getting those pin boots to try and augment some of that early damage Cerberus can do. And
checking out Sabando's itemization, I'm curious as to whether or not he could possibly be opting for a Transcendence here, and it is going to be the Transcendence on the Fenrir, really looking for that all-in power spike off of completing the item, and you still get the 10% cooldown reduction as well, which is pretty important to keep in mind, and he'll be stacking that up shortly after, although as a jungler, can be a little bit more difficult to acquire those Transcendent stacks.
Beakaway is looking to try and acquire Azul, who immediately starts lurking in the water, so won't be getting controlled, and instead can safely back up, even get a little bit of mana back, so he'll be okay. Looks like he might have a meditation there at the selection, so he was able to sustain up a little bit there in the lane, and now he can safely back up. Bekoes is still here, though. Actually, might be going for the reinitiation. Looks like he was able to get the pull, but still not really any kill potential.
Still not a situation that Azul really wants to stick around for. He's going to opt back to base, and now Sabando kind of left all alone here, farming away that blue buff, although it doesn't seem as though Nocturnes is interested in trying to contest it just yet. They'd rather pay no to the tower.
That is what they're going to do. They got that tower down to half health, plenty of damage between these two, even setting up an escape route for himself were he to need it. Jumping in aggressively, Sabando. He does manage to find Picoes. Gets the beads so to get him out of it. Almost has enough damage to get that return kill. Azul just couldn't get here in time to follow up and help him out with that one. So he defends the tower and stays alive.
On the bright side for Sabando, he didn't use his purification beads either. So next Ragnarok, he'll probably be looking straight at Pico, and that's just what makes sense. Close call, though. Oh, probably closer than what he would have liked it to be.
Yeah, I mean, only a little bit of damage separated him and death there, and being that first blood as we approach 10 minutes here into the game. But he keeps that tower standing, which is important not just for a little bit of farm that it would have given away to the opposition, but more importantly that it would have taken away some of the safety being over here on this side of the map. If they want to contest Pyromancer, if they want to try and look for the invades, it's further that they have to go to get back to the safety of one of their own structures for Quad Gaming if that falls.
And I do have to respect what Quad is trying to accomplish here. Last game, by the 10-minute mark, they were already so far behind. It was just looking abysmal. But game number 2, they saw the flaws that happened in the first match, and they're accounting for them pretty nicely. I like the adjustments that they're making and trying to control the pacing of the match more so than just letting Nocturnes kind of do whatever the hell they want and then trying to respond afterwards.
This time, they're much more relevant at this phase in the game. Sabando jumps in. His jump is down, forced to use that Brutalize just to leap out of the range of Adair, who is again piloting this Agni that we saw him play so well last game. This range control they're going to be able to provide. Once these team fights do start breaking out, there's so much control here on the side of Nocturnes Gaming. And same on Quad Gaming, that really it's going to feel like whoever's the one that used it just a little bit more efficiently is going to be the one that can pull that team fight out.
I'm really just keeping an eye out for whenever this RDO starts to play a factor in the team fights, because RDO is actually incredibly strong against most of Quad strats. Speaking of which, Ox actually getting the upper hand in this duo lane, forcing Zion to back. Zion most likely going to miss out on this next wave, but shouldn't be enough time for Ox to chip away at the T1 tower too much. And with Pico hovering in the duo lane as well, there's just no real chance for Quad's duo lane to try and get that T1 tower down.
Yeah, it looked like Ox recognized that he wasn't going to be able to, so he just backs there, takes that chance to go back, finish up Devo Gloves, and go ahead and get that stacking. Got his lifesteal online, significantly ahead of Zion 6, who was already finished off the Transcendence instead, and then has the Ninja Tabi, it looks like, to go along with that one. So he'll be able to continue to try and out-trade this on her if the fights are a little bit longer and he can get some sustain up off the wave.
Ox actually is going to be a great pull there onto Daylon, but a quick little jump's going to get him out of trouble, as well as the sprint for good measure. Seems as though Daylon was concerned there might have been more than just a Sylvanas lurking around those corners.
And they've got some good wards over on that side, so I think they might have just been worried that he'd made it over here without them being able to notice, because I don't think the sprint was necessary. This is a great pillar, though, that came out from Zion 6. Ox, I don't think that was an overreaction at all. He had to use that mountain archery to make it out of there. Sabando takes too much damage, just stands in place and ends up getting almost hit, but it is enough from the dot. Adair finally finding first blood at 12:48. Curious play there from Sabando in the mid lane and gets punished by Nocturnes, who pulled the Gold Fury in response.
Sometimes no juke is the best juke, but that isn't the case here. And now Nocturnes, one pick is all it takes, immediately going towards the Gold Fury. This is just solid play out of a veteran squad.
Paulo kind of just stayed and cleared the mid-wave. Final Judge and maybe could have at least given them a chance. I don't think he felt safe moving into that Gold Fury area, though, Taco, instead. Gold Fury now going with the way of Nocturnes Gaming for free, and they finally start opening themselves up about a 1,500 gold lead here in this match.
Normally, I'm very opposed to those that don't try to contest those kind of objectives, because Final Judgment should be more than enough most of the time. However, with it being a 4v5 situation and considering the pathing that Nocturnes was taking to work their way towards the Gold Fury, I think they could have very easily caught out Apollo on the rotation and ended up with more than just the Gold Fury had Thoth tried to actually venture towards it.
That seemed to be the call from all of Quad Gaming. Their positioning around the Gold Fury was not very defensive at all. It looked like they were comfortable giving that one up. I do recognize they were in that 4v5 as well, but the game had been virtually even for 12 minutes. And then letting a big swing get away from them. Gonna have to try and slow the rest of that farm down. Sabando, though, this time finds the Ragnarok. This time just in response to a little bit of crowd control. Forces the beads out from Pico ways, but he's able to turn around and get the kill. 2 kills now going the way of Nocturnes Gaming. Both of them coming from this Finward jungle.
They're not done just yet, however. Beltway still looking to play aggressive here onto Azul, but more importantly, Sabando just cannot afford to take aggressive pathing any longer. He's got to play way more defensive and just try to prioritize playing or setting up Apollo here in the mid lane as opposed to looking for any flashy plays himself.
Well, you talked about earlier how he was going to need some help from Daylon to get these relics on cooldown and start setting himself up to find the stuns off the leap, to find the Ragnarok pulls, but that really hasn't been the call from Quad Gaming. The game has been slow so far, and that does not favor Fenrir, who's somewhat telegraphed, who needs these relics to be on cooldown to do what he wants to do. Daylon leaps in onto Zion 6. They find plenty of damage, not the stun though, so Ox can't finish that kill off. Zion 6 going to be able to make it out.
The stun could have maybe set up the Hachiman ultimate there.
I think so, yeah.
With enough damage. Maybe also forced out Zion's actives, but again, playing so greedy with this relic with these relics, and Zion just, for good reason, doesn't have any real pressure to have to actually use those.
Pikoe is rotating over this time, trying to see if he might be able to come over and help Zion 6, who's half health and can't afford to back with everyone here. That this tower would probably go down for free. So Pikoe is coming over trying to alleviate some of that pressure for him. Blinks in, finds the pull as well. Didn't drop the ultimate. Mounted archery comes out in response. Aegis keeps him alive through that. Actually pulls Pikoe back closer in so that he can find the ultimate. I was worried about exactly that. Pikoe finds it. 3 kills now. And he's been a part of all 3 as the jungler for Nocturnes.
It just feels like some miscommunication there between the Guardian and the Hunter. Normally what would have been an encouraged play from Daylon is just not the move. Pulling that Susano even closer to your Hunter that's barely made it out alive the first time.
And sets him up to find exactly that. That ultimate that finds yet another kill for Nocturnes Gaming. Daylon maybe not quite on the same page as the rest of the team here so far this set, but they're not nearly as far behind as they were last game, Taco. About 3,000 gold 16 minutes in, so certainly Quad can still fight into this one. About 3,000, 3,500 experience, nearly at the same level. Tier 1 tower, though, under siege. Nocturnes want to try and force a fight here in the mid lane. They have been able to create a little bit of space for some auto attacks, but they don't have Zion 6 here. Some of their best damage on the towers. They did turn around and find Azul, who rotated in to try and help out with the aggression, going in very deep as Pikoe's, while the rest of his team continues to fight up against Daylon on the backside, as well as Sabando, who takes yet another spill under the pressure from Adair. Now they turn their attention towards the dog, who gets pulled back in perfectly by Sylvanas, making a double kill for Adair as they find him in mid.
And this has just been an absolute nightmare for Quad Gaming, because what was once basically a break-even match and nobody really had the advantage is now just been turned almost entirely in Nocturne's favor. The goal lead is just getting even further and further ahead of themselves, and Quad Gaming might actually end up losing their T2 tower here. Flash Azul doing his best with his lurking in the water to try and zone everybody away, but it's still not going to be enough. Nocturne's Gaming still standing strong in this mid lane. Not only that, but Pico is going to be able to claim the speed for himself, although Quad, sigh of relief as Nocturnes actually ends up turning away from the T2 tower, but right onto the Pyromancer.
I was watching Zion 6 on the Gold Fury, but that was the wrong objective. It was the Pyromancer that was going to be the call from Nocturnes, as Gold Fury still won't be up for another 5 seconds. Nocturnes take that one without any kind of contest to add to their already growing lead. Gold Fury now is back up, and it actually looks like it's Ox who's going to be the one that's around it. Not really looking to try and pull it or anything like that, as we just saw Zion 6 grab those oracles that look like around the area, so they might have some vision, and they do have that vision control, so they'll know if anyone from Quad tried to get that one started up.
And Zion just doing his best to hold his own. Doesn't really need to play aggressive here against Ox, not even only just because of the fact that Hachi has a little bit better poke potential, but just because he probably knows that Daylon's hovering around this corner. Pico, though, coming in with a great rotation. Even if Quad want to play aggressive, Pico might still be able to cut him off, and it's not even just Pico, it's actually the whole squad rolling up with them into this dueling.
Once again, using Daylon to try and get closer to Ox, and he is able to get him knocked up. Use that teleport, turn around and find the pull. Zion 6 is the one that eventually turned that one around. Rainfire over the top along with Pikoe's is enough to take down Daylon as well. The dual lane for Quad Gaming falls. Going in and finally finding a pull this time is Sabando, but Zion 6 turns that one around on him as well. Make it 3 kills for Nocturnes Gaming as they continue to push Tier 1 tower. They out-rotate Quad Gaming and win the fight.
Nocturnes is just completely outplaying Quad Gaming right now, and not even a diss to Quad. It's just that Nocturnes has that much more experience. I mean, this team was just at Worlds, and this is why. This is what that international experience can do to a team from an international region. And Nocturnes Gaming just taking every open opportunity. Flash Azul going to be next on their list as Adair going to get the credit for that one.
He may have been in the water, but still ended up getting burned by Adair there on that Agni. They find yet another kill. I think it was 4 total across that entire team fight, going the way of Nocturnes. Tier 2 tower, Tier 1 tower, and even the Gold Fury, all going to be going the way of Nocturnes Gaming, as now they have a 10,000 gold lead, 11,000 experience lead. Well, it took a while, but we're not too far now from that same lead Nocturnes had last game. It wasn't as early on this time, but Nocturnes found their way eventually. 20 minutes in here, 9-0 kills, and they're firmly in control.
There's just no real opportunities for Quad to even try and moderately take up. Even in the duel lane, Sabando finally gets a Ragnarok off onto one of the carries, tries to carry them into the T1, but it's only a disservice to himself as that giant hitbox targeter for the Agni ends up working against him underneath those bombs.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is the first time he was actually able to hold someone that didn't immediately purify it away, Taco. Sabando has not been able to get anything going on this Finra pick, and not to say that he's playing the pick poorly, as Ox might be dead to rights just from Scion 6, even if there wasn't a whole rotation coming over, which there was. He finds the solo kill up against the Hachiman and keeps on moving. But Sabando has not been, because there's been so little pressure from Quad as a unit, Sabando can't find any pressure for himself to come in and try and isolate one of these members of Nocturnes.
No, and sitting at level 15 as well. He's 4 levels behind Pico Ace.
That's rough.
That is a massive level disparity between junglers. He's kind of been starved of his own farm as well. There's no lanes that he can actually leech from without putting his teammates further behind, and every time he starts to poke his head towards one of the objectives, immediately met by some form of damage.
Fire Giant has been pulled now by Nocturnes Gaming. They have it down to half health, and lying in wait here is Azul, but he couldn't get there in time. Nocturnes take the Fire Giant for free. He's just going to try and back in the backside of the team fight. I think he is going to be able to get away with that if he so chooses to, as the rest of Nocturnes have turned their attention towards farm and trying to further punish Sabando. He is able to at least avoid the ultimate and has to use his own Ragnarok to get it done, but he's still alive.
But he's going to lose his speed buff in the process, and Nocturnes Gaming, they're not looking to stop just yet.
No.
Pushing down the mid and solo lane sides, just trying to eliminate both of these last standing T2s at the same time to try and make some room for when these Phoenix Sieges start to happen.
And they could start happening at any time, basically, for this Nocturnes roster. They have cleaned up this map. They have gained control of this game. Now, mid-Phoenix is going to be the call. Picoes goes in, looking for the pull. Can't find it. Actually gets forced back this time. Phoenix at half health and charging up is Paulo on that final judgment. But Nocturnes are still plenty healthy. Going to get a little bit more sustained coming out from OT Lover. And they just make a second attempt here as they still have all but one ultimate available.
Of course, though, for Quad, it's not all doom and gloom just yet. Ultimate going to come out from Sylvanas. Great little knock up there, but Flash Azul and Sabando already being pushed down to incredibly low health. The ultimate connects, but does practically nothing as Quad have to watch their mid-Phoenix just fall.
Yeah, it hit Zion 6, but really did not do that much damage. They've got him locked down between the pillars. Picoes finds a kill onto Ox, who ends up falling. Beltway finds Daylon as well. Sabando gets the first kill of the game for Quad Gaming. They're not going to be entirely blanked out here as he does manage to take down Noi2 Lover. The Sylvanas player falls. Actually gets a double kill as he takes down a Dare, but that's going to be it for the Dream for the dog. He ends up falling as well. So does Paolo. 4 members have fallen for Quad Gaming. Only Azul is left alive, and he's not even in the Titan room. He has to back now to try and find a way to make it back in. Finally, the back comes through, but half health for the Titan. Not going to get there anywhere near in time. He ends up falling as well, and Nocturnes take the set 2-0.
I respect the commitment to at least do something defensive underneath that Titan siege, but for Nocturnes Gaming, it's going to be a quick 2-0 in that set. The veteran squad just a little bit too much for Quad to handle.
Yeah, this is not too big of a surprise. Nocturnes are a seasoned roster. That's mostly the same roster that they had when they were at HRX. We just mentioned they were there playing up against an international level competition. So even though they dropped a game to Legatum early on, they 2-0 it when they make it to the finals where it really counts. And they are the ones that win it here for the SMITE Global Series for LATAM South.
And a huge congratulations to Nocturnes as well for cleaning up or claiming that victory for themselves.
Absolutely.
Again, just incredibly clean play all around for every single member of this squad. They kind of just knew what responsibilities they had in that match. They never really seemed to be out of position or overextending by any means. Anytime there was one member looking for pressure, there was always somebody else to help assist. Nocturnes just really well coordinated the entire time.
So that means now they will be the ones that take that final, able to secure that first place prizing for themselves, and as well as securing themselves a spot moving on to Masters. But that's going to do it here for us with the Global Series for this week. We do have more for you. The SPL going to be starting at 5 p.m. on Mixer.com/SmiteGame. So make sure you check that out for North American action, and we'll see you then.